Alright, hello and welcome everybody to Ceremonial Witchcraft. I am Corey LeBlanc, or I call myself a Ceremonial Witch, because I'm not going to give anybody my real magical name. But for these purposes, this is Ceremonial Witchcraft, so it makes sense that I would be a Ceremonial Witch, who is somebody who's a ceremonial magic and witchcraft, both in his spirituality and day-to-day and manifestation and teaching and all. This is how my life works, operates, and runs. But anyways, happy New Year's Eve, I guess. Excuse me, sorry. Multitasking while I'm recording here, but I'm gonna have to stop because my mind won't work right if I do that. Anyways, so why do I say New Year's Eve? Well, because October 31st, Samhaine. The day we should put out the dumb supper for our ancestors. The veil is apparently the thinnest. I've talked about this many times. Well, I mean, not many times, but definitely a few times. I find it fascinating. Can I tell you if it's real or not real, or if this is the true beginning of the year or end of the year? No. No, I can't do that. I could study all the calendars and every different ancient race and religion and what they believe, and then I could draw on a bunch of facts and things that we do to this day and make a good argument, but there's always going to be another sided argument. And the reason that I don't think you could ever pinpoint the beginning and the end is pretty simple, actually. How do you pinpoint the beginning and the end of a circle? You fucking can't. You can't. Wherever you start is where you finish. You know what I mean? You go around and go around. A circle always goes around. You know what I mean? It's circular. It's secular. It's not linear. We tend to look at everything linearly, and I don't like to say that because a lot of people say that. A lot of people use that as an excuse to not be able to explain things right and be like, you think only linear and stuff like that, which can be the case. But it's secular, and I don't even think I understand that completely, so I won't try. But I do think it's fascinating, and, one thing I try not to do is believe in things that, I don't like to only watch things I resonate with and like. I like to give different knowledge, different information a chance to seep in, and maybe... Because even if I watch something that may not be right or accurate, but watching something else that's not in line with my beliefs will help me not go too far to the one side of my beliefs and be polarized by my own views, having this self-limiting beliefs or belief systems take over, basically. Think I have the only answer, the only right. So by watching information that I don't like, or it's uncomfortable, or people are incredibly ignorant or arrogant or misinformed or polarized or imbalanced, it helps me find that's not necessarily resolutions, but it makes me come up with reasons why they might think that way, what led to that, and what would be a better way of, maybe if I had to speak to this person, how could I try to explain to them, not necessarily how they're wrong, but how they can make things better for themselves, or maybe even try to explain my spirituality. Because this time of year, you put Samhaine in a YouTube search, or Halloween, or Christianity, any of those words, and you're going to get Christianity stole Halloween from pagans. You're going to get pagans stole it from Christianity. You're going to get Christians saying you shouldn't celebrate Halloween. You're going to have Christians saying Halloween's theirs. You're going to have Christians saying that pagans used to fucking sacrifice babies and kids, and they're still doing it, and it's all satanic and Satanism and all this crap. You're going to get a wide variety. So, and here's the thing, if you have a belief system, let's say you're a Christian, and you believe that Halloween is the devil's holiday or Satan's holiday, well, you can certainly find enough information on YouTube to support your idea. And you can only watch that. Or you can do like I do. I put that in, right? Because I wanted to record something, maybe put it on here about Samhaine and, the history and where Christianity adopted it. But, I played Freak Phil's version, I think, or Uncle Birch's version. If I haven't, then I play it. But I think I already played it. But point is, I already know what they're going to say, so what's the point of watching the same information over and over again? It's not going to do anything but polarize me more, maybe get me more upset, whatever. about the fact that Christianity is still. But so instead, what I did is I listened to a bunch of different Christians talk about Samhaine, the adoption of it, why it's bad, different things like that, making their argument about it, condemning witchcraft, all this. That's what I watched instead. And, it's not easy to watch and listen to that and trying not to be polarized against them and, fight a reaction. Actually, I did record this one woman who I'm going to play after, who's a Christian woman condemning fucking Samhaine, Halloween. And, you probably hear me in the background saying fucking wrong. First thing in the morning, so I was drinking my first coffee. So, yeah, it's very hard to bite my tongue. I felt like I had to say something out loud. And, really that's that ego coming out as if she's attacking me when she's attacking something I believe in that I know she has wrong information, or at least to my belief system, to my point of view, she has the wrong information. She's just going on a generalized idea. Because think about it. If Christians teach other Christians that witchcraft is bad, right? And that all witchcraft is satanic worship, blah, 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 blah. Well, witchcraft is the one side of the polarity. It's the negative. It's Satan. And Christianity is positive, God, positive energy, right? So by nature, these are the two opposites. So, but if you were in a court of law, even our court of law, that is, all done by Christian fucking, the judge is a priest in a manner of speaking, basically. That's why he's ordained. You have to be ordained to do someone's wedding, right? Well, the ordained is what priests become. They become ordained, right? You go into there, you go. There's a lot of different words I could play on, and I think I've already played different things from people on here explaining how the court system is very much like telling your sins and all that, like whenever you go for confession. But anyways, let's just, if you went to the court and you're going to plead your case, right? You're the defendant against the prosecution, or the I guess it'd be the prosecution. If you're against them, right? Well, you're with. All I'm trying to say is getting the information from your side against the opposite side, right? It'd be like asking, if someone who likes the Montreal Canadiens as a hockey team, if I ask them about what their opinion is on Toronto versus if I ask a Toronto fan their opinion on Toronto versus Montreal, right? You're going to have the Montreal fans not going to like Toronto and the Toronto fans not going to like Montreal, but they're both going to talk up their team as their team's the best, right? So going to a priest, asking a priest about witchcraft, why it's condemned, is the wrong person to speak to because they're biased. It's the same thing about going to a priest and asking them if Christianity is the best religion. They're biased. You would have to get a unbiased party, someone who, has no stake in Christianity or witchcraft. So maybe an atheist who doesn't believe in God. Okay, which one of these religions if you were to believe in, entities, gods, or whatever, let's say, hypothetically, if you had to pick one of these, which one would have the less evils, the less backlash? Which one could you see yourself most likely doing? And I'm not saying that you would pick one of these, but if you had to just go with the information right now, or here's some information from me, but that would be biased. So just the information off the top of your head, which one you would go with. And let's say this person was, someone who's well-read or has done some, whatever. They know a little bit about it. Well, then you can get a better view of which one, other people may like. But go and ask a priest about Halloween and witchcraft and getting your information, like what happened way back when, hey priest, in the times before Christ or after Christ, the pagan religions, on Samhain, those sacrifices, they really sacrifice. Asking a priest that information, first of all, he doesn't know. He wasn't there. He only knows what he was taught over and over again from his biased religion against it, who's just going to keep saying the same biased crap because they don't want people to go to a different religion than their own, so it only makes sense to make them look bad. It's just like advertising. If you're a Wendy's fucking commercial, if you're a Wendy's, if you work at Wendy's, right, and you want to put an ad out, well, your commercial is not going to be talking about how great McDonald's is. No, you're going to say you're better than, or these people are worse than. That's polarity. That's how it works. It's like the same thing for business as in religion. So for someone who is of a Christian faith to come on here and tell people what happened way back when they weren't even around, when they have no idea, and they even sound stupid in their speak. It's very hard for me to not be polarized against that. But that'd be like asking fucking Hitler, what he thought about the fucking Jews, you know what I mean? Versus it's just, it wouldn't make sense, because Hitler is going to be biased for the Nazi party, and the people that fought against Hitler, in World War II are going to be biased towards their party, right? We have the version of the story because we won that war. And I'm not saying Hitler's wrong or right. Point is, Hitler's going to have a different fucking view of what he did versus our view. We know it's wrong and all that, and God, it probably was wrong, but in his mind, he probably thought he was doing something good. You know what I mean? Point is, you're not going to ask someone who's biased about something that they're biased against, you know what I mean? Because you're just going to get biased information, imbalanced information, and to take that and to run with that and put it out on the internet for people to hear is just stupid and wrong and it's not even amateur level of anything. You know what I mean? If you're going to come on here and put out opinions, if you're just coming on here to fuck around, play video games, have fun, be entertainment, then that's fine. Do what you want. But if you're going to come out here and give out information for people and you're not even going to do an in-depth search and at least get both sides, a little bit background from both parties or whatever, just go by your own dogmatic fucking belief system that doesn't want anybody to go to this side. And all judgments and all bias aside, okay? Let's say witchcraft is bad. It's of the devil, okay? Let's say that's the case, all right? It's evil, okay? But if you're going to present something, you should be well-rounded. You should give the point of view from Christians. You should give the point of view from, atheists. You should give the point of view from a wide range of places. You should go online and do research on the history through the lens of the actual people that practice it. But if your sources are going to be, well, I talked to an ex-witch and an ex-magical practitioner, and I talked to my priest. These are all biased people. For whatever reason, they're no longer a witch or in witchcraft anymore. They left for whatever reason, and they can tell you it was because of this and that, and maybe it was, and I hope to God nothing bad happened to anybody, but it could be for completely different reasons, and you could be dealing with a sociopath or a psychopath, because there's those type of people in every religion. I find it funny how Christians like to talk about Satanism, witchcraft, and us killing people and babies and doing all these horrible things and talking about the millions of people that that disappear in the States every year. So you're telling me that it's more likely that a satanic worshiper or someone who's practicing witchcraft in their basement of their home, who's working to get by and just manifesting their life and all that, they're going to have the means and the skill and the know-how to make that many people fucking disappear a year without a trace to their family. And that's more likely than, how many priests that have got caught doing bad things to little boys and molesting children. You think it's more likely for them to avoid a scandal, let that little boy go, than fucking make them disappear? I think it'd be more likely to be those people higher up in society who have the police forces and different people on their side that be more likely to be able to make these people disappear. And as usual, the person who's wrong, the person who did something wrong, their first reaction is to point the blame at somebody else. So the priests are going to say, yeah, those satanic fucking witchcraft people are killing fucking people, and that's why the number of disappearances has gone up, because those are the people doing this. Yeah. The first person to point the finger is going to be the one who's normally fucking guilty. That is something that's any psychologist, anybody who's studied the mind, anybody who knows people, anybody who has fucking kids, for God's sakes, or even anybody who was a kid, but most people are stuck in victim mode and woe is me and I'm so stupid, I can't even fucking see past my belief systems. But, they're not going to be able to realize that. But, to me, it would be more likely that the people disappearing would be akin to, the people who are in high places that can get away with stuff like that. Like if I go commit a fucking murder, there's a 99% chance I'm going to get caught. With the technology and everything that happens today, for me to be able to get rid of a body to the point where there's no trace and no one seeing me do anything is very unlikely. Very unlikely. However, for a respected figure And you can say, well, why would a priest do that? Well, why would a priest do all the things they have done? Priests are still kiboshing all these fucking scandals and suits. There was like $100 fucking million settlement not that long ago, because they didn't want it to get to court for a bunch of parents that were suing a fucking Catholic denomination for molestation accusations and sexual assault accusations. It's still happening, and they're burying it. They're just shooting money at it, and the parents are taking the money, and they're not going to the press. And even if they went to the press wouldn't print it anyways. And yeah, you got these fucking people that don't do research coming on here and blaming witchcraft and satanic, Luciferian, and devil worshipping on the people going missing. Are you fucking stupid? And I'm sorry, because I'm getting polarized again, and I'm feeling like, this is how I don't want to act. I don't want to act like they're insulting me directly, okay? They're insulting their version in their head of witchcraft, what they believe it is, okay? So they're not insulting my spirituality per se, because my spirituality has nothing to do with human, animal, any kind of sacrifice, except unless you consider the leaves I pluck off my plants. Like I got a big basil plant right in my kitchen, right on my windowsill. I got rosemary growing there. I got thyme growing there, in the summertime, because now like I had to take everything out. But I got vegetables and shit that grow in my yard that I eat. Okay, that's the only thing I do. But I don't root it. I don't kill it. I just take a leaf up and I talk to the plant before I even do it. And I fucking thank it and everything. So, and I don't even eat animals anymore, for God's sake. So, and I practice witchcraft. So I actually pulled myself out of the abuse and the massacre of millions of animals every year. Probably billions, actually. Probably more like trillions of animals dying every year. And then this Christian girl that I'm going to put on, and I don't want to judge her because, like I said, she's only going by what she thinks in her head is to be real. In her head, witchcraft is satanic people that go around eating fucking kids and babies and missing homeless people or whatever the case is, okay? That's what it is in her head. But in my head, it's completely different. It's me worshiping the energies in my body that are the same as the energies up in the sky, that are in the ground, that make up reality around me. To me, it didn't make sense to read a book and believe in a God that was put in a book that there's not much proof of. Okay? But when I can literally see the elements, fire, water, air, earth, and how those things are essential to my life. Without those things, I would die. So I don't necessarily worship those things, but I respect them, I honor them, and I'm grateful for them. And I do everything in my power to make sure they know that. Not only that, but then there's a fifth one of spirit. Because there's a spirit element that I can't see, but I know is there. Which is the only reason why there's some weight to the Bible. But the Bible focuses only on spirit and none of these other aspects. So they attribute a positive energy to this God. And they only worship positivity or positive energy. And that's not balanced. That's not balanced to one bit. It's wrong. They shouldn't do it. This is why their religion is so imbalanced. There's positive and negative energy, and there's also male and female, which can look like positive and negative, and we do attribute women to negative and men to positive, but they're two different directions. Good and bad, positive and negative in that sense. God and the devil, okay? Though that would be your up and down, and your male and female would be your side to side. It would be like your air and water, your fire and your earth, okay? This is why we worship these things. However, there's other attributes that have to come into effect. There are 7 planets after all, right? There's a reason for that. There's a reason for everything. There's a reason why there's multiple gods in some religions. But it doesn't matter. You don't have to look at it as gods or energies. You can look at it whatever way you want. But by just thinking only positive energy is the way, only one God, even though in your doctrine that God created a Satan, a devil, right? He created that being. He created him. He created him. He's the creator of all. He created Satan. Okay? And Satan's job is to punish the people that God deems not good enough to go to heaven. And you're going to blame Satan for all the bad shit you do? That's not why God created Satan. He created Satan to punish people for when they don't get into heaven. I don't believe in this whatsoever. But if I was to believe in it, I would believe in it correctly. I wouldn't do bad things because I'm made up of good and bad. I'm made up of positive and negative energy. And sometimes you get negative thoughts and you act on them and you do negative things. That's not Satan making me fucking do that. Satan's job is to punish me when I go to hell. But people that fucking cheat on their wife or hit their kid and say, oh, Satan made me do it. You're a fucking liar. You're going to blame it on Satan, so that makes it okay? So it's okay? Oh, you smack your kid in the face. Oh, no, Satan made me do it. Satan made me do it. You always have that person to blame. You always have that entity to blame. It's not Satan's fucking job. That's why Christians are so fucking imbalanced. Because the only right way to do Christianity is if God is the one who created us and he created Satan. Well, Satan is a being above us because he controls a realm down there. God didn't put you in charge of hell. God didn't say you should go around saying who's good and who's bad, even though that's what you're fucking doing. You're going around saying witchcraft is bad, Christianity or believing in Jesus is good. But he didn't put you in charge of that. That's Satan's fucking job. So who the fuck are you to come on here and tell people what they should and should not believe? That's not your fucking job. God didn't say, hey, this is what I'm going to put you in charge. No, God just made you a person. God didn't even fucking talk to you. Some other human being said, here's a book. Read it, believe in it. And you did that, and then you're going around telling other people to fucking do it. Our Creator didn't tell us to do that. And you can say, well, Jesus this, Jesus that. But that's just in a fucking book written by fucking other men. I have no proof that spirituality, any spiritual being told me to do any of those fucking things at any fucking point. But what I do believe is the sun coming up, and the sun going down, and then the moon coming up, the moon going down. Without that sun, we'd be fucking dead. You know, without the moon, we'd be fucking dead because it governs water, tide, women, emotion, every one of the planets that have an impact on our body, okay? Those things affect us and we know what they do. We can measure what they do, okay? This is what I believe in. The fact that my cells in my body continuously are brand new cells. Every 30 days, your body makes new cells and kills off the old cells. Every fucking 30 days, okay? And it's different. It's not like every 30 days they all does it at once. No, every single minute, every single day, there's another 30 different cells that are being made for whatever different part of your body. But it doesn't change the fact, and that's why we perceive it as this is the same skin we had since we were a kid. This is the same feet, same bone structure, same eyes. No, it's different. But because your body is so fucking much smarter than you, okay? Because even your cells have a consciousness. Because of that, it looks like we've had these things this entire time and nothing has changed. And that's why we get old and die, because we've had this skin, this body, these bones since we were a baby. And that's just not true. That's just not true. It's absolutely false. Go read some medical books, some anatomy books, some biology books. All right? You're going to find out that what I just said is accurate. That continuously you're making new cells. So everything on your body is only 30 fucking days old, technically. Because your cells are only 30 days old. And they die off, and they come back, and they die off, and they come back, and they die off, and come back. Why do they say people with acne and oily skin end up having nicer skin when they're older? Why do they say that? Well, because the oily skin preserves the skin longer, right? So the cells and shit don't have to die off. Or, pimples pop, you get scabs, whatever. If the scab's not too big to make a scar, that's brand new skin. You're doing it more often. You're getting rid of the dead skin, you're getting new skin. The reason is because you took care of your skin over time, because the new cells and the old cells, it was easier to distinguish. Whereas a woman who's putting too much makeup on every single day of their life, killing the good cells that aren't ready to die yet already, and trying to revive dead cells that they should just brush off because they think this is their skin, and the skin is the skin they gotta have when they're 90, which is bullshit once again. If you just knew what the fuck you were talking about, did a little research, you would know that you just gotta take off every day. You should be wiping your body with a fucking rag, or I have specific cold brushes that I use, and I take off the top layer of dead skin off of my skin every fucking day, because that's where the old cells go. They go to the top or the bottom, depending if your hand is down. Well, the bottom of your nail would be the bottom. If you put your hand up, it would be the top. But that's why we cut our nails, because it grows from the one part, and at the other part, it dies. So you cut off the dead part of the nail, and it continues to grow, just like your fucking hair. That's how everything works. But anyways, I'm way off topic. But that's why I believe in witchcraft and spirituality and ceremonial magic, because it's using these energies to your benefit, and it's being grateful to these energies and honoring these energies and respecting these energies, because they're all around us, and we couldn't survive without fire. We couldn't survive without water. We couldn't survive without air. We couldn't survive without earth. And you can say, well, God said don't worship inanimate things. Well, these aren't inanimate things. The earth is alive, water's alive, air's alive, fire's alive. These things are alive. They're not inanimate. And any book that says, hey, I'm the only God, so worship me. Why the fuck would you worship somebody like that? If someone came up to you and say, hey, I'm the best fucking dad in the world, and you should try to be like me, you're going to look at this guy and be like, who the fuck are you? I don't know you. Just because A bunch of people put their belief in you. I'm supposed to do that? No. And I don't like saying that about the God of the Bible, because the God of the Bible can teach some really profound things. Those stories, if you look at them the right way, they're very good. They're very profound. So I don't want to attack the Bible per se. I don't even want to attack this woman, because like I said, she's attacking whatever she believes witchcraft to be. And to me, that's not what witchcraft it is. So to me, there's no argument here. I don't have to hold my own. I don't have to make a case. I don't have to protect or say anything against her, except for the fact that she is an imbalanced woman, and she would be well served if she would look at Lucifer, Satan, or the devil. She should pick one, because they're three different people. But whoever that God put in charge of the people who don't follow the commandments, which she could probably technically say, well, I'm going to go to hell when I die. Okay, well, the person that is responsible for taking my body and making sure I don't go up in heaven and mingle with her in the afterlife, make sure I go down to hell and stay away from her. She should honor that fucking person, because they are providing a service that the Creator thought is an important role, and it's not a role that anybody could do. It's definitely not her role to do. She shouldn't be doing this shit, yet she's taken upon herself to be Satan, going around condemning people. That's what Lucifer did. He thought he was better than everybody else and shit like that. It's sickening. But point is, if they were to realize that good and bad is within them, just like as above, so below, just like if there's a God, well, then there is his other half as well. This is why Outwitting the Devil is such a fucking profound book, especially the conversation with the devil. But still, I don't believe in the devil or Satan. I don't believe in any of that. However, if I was to believe in God, patriarchy, that positive energy, it would be well served. You would be well served if you were to honor, respect, and be grateful to the negative energy as well, because it's within you. You need to understand that part. That's a whole shadow work thing that I'm not going to get into again, but you have to understand that if you think you're better than people and you're not capable of doing those things that you're condemning, well, yeah, you're in fucking balance. But even being in balance, you should at least thank the person who's punishing them. And you're going to say, well, that's God. God's punishing them. No, God made the rules. He said, if you don't pass these rules, you go to hell. All right? So when does Satan come in? Does Satan bring them to hell? Does Satan pick up their soul and bring them down? Or does God make them go down there and Satan just keep them locked up in there so they can't get out? But Satan has a role in it. So either way, you should be honoring that person, that entity who's in charge of that. And to say, well, Satan is supposed to guard the gates of hell and make sure no one gets out and torture these people for torturing other people. Okay, so how does he come up here and fuck with people all the time then? How does he have time to do that? Well, he's got all the other angels down there working for him. But God didn't give him that role, and you're telling me that God, all-powerful, mighty God, who created Lucifer the way he is, but had the power to banish him to hell, can't keep him in fucking hell? God can do everything and anything, can he not? So how can God not let Lucifer come up? Well, okay, Lucifer's supposed to tempt us, and we're supposed to stay true to God. That's the point. Well, then that's not the devil or God. That if God created that circumstance, then you should stop condemning it, because it's a beautiful thing. It's what he made it to be. Blaming Lucifer for all the evil in the world is wrong. You shouldn't be blaming Lucifer. You should be blaming God. Yeah, I said it. Why? Well, you just said, God is allowing Lucifer to tempt us, so we choose God. You just said God's allowing that to happen. This is all hypothetical. No one said that. But point is, if that was their argument, they say, the reason why God doesn't make Lucifer or the devil or Satan stay in hell is because he wants them to come up and tempt us. You have the choice to do, this is the goodwill thing. You have the choice between good and evil. So Lucifer comes up here and tempts you, and then likewise the angels and God will come up here and tempt you to good, right? Pick a side, basically. And if someone chooses Lucifer, well, is it their fault? Lucifer tempted them. You could say, they should have known better. Well, what if they didn't know better? What if they never learned Christianity? What if they never saw a Bible? And there are people in the world that never saw a Bible. I know it's hard out of your little Christian bubble probably to see that, but there are places in the world like that. Very much places like that in the world. So is that the person's fault? Do they go to hell? Even though, Satan got to them. Maybe they grew up and they were raped by their own fucking father. And, and then their father made them be a prostitute. So is that their fault? If their father made that child be a prostitute, that they continue being a prostitute? That's all they've known and have never heard about God? Is that their fucking fault? Do they go to hell for that? Because to me, that's already hell where they are. And to me, that God should be coming down to that poor little fucking girl who was forced into that disgusting shit. And he should come down and fucking save her. But he's not. It's up to her. It's her fucking free will. She should choose. Yeah, it's a hell of a fucking belief system. Good fucking luck with that shit. That's so fucking stupid. It's unbelievable how stupid that line of fucking thinking is. We have been given by our Creator the ability to fix our own problems, the ability to heal our own bodies, the ability to get out of any situation. Unfortunately, we're not taught how, and we are, on top of not taught how, we are intentionally taught the opposite. Whether it's intentional because they don't want us to find this out, or it was just so many years of people being Christian and learning the same shit that that's all we know. But the one thing I know is nothing stays the same. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing stays the same. Nothing lasts forever. And you can't suppress occult knowledge. There's a reason it's never died. There's a reason it's more popular now than ever. There's a reason. And yeah, I went a little long on this little tangent there. My computer almost died. I had to plug it in there. That's why I lost my train of thought. But anyway, so if all what I just said now didn't really make sense, well, I'm going to play the clip from this woman. And like I said, I'm not judging her, okay? It's not her fault. I do get a little, and this is how I continuously work on depolarization. I put myself in this, I listen to something I know I'm not going to like. I know I'm not going to like this opinion of this woman, and I know I'm going to have a lot to say. But I got to do my best to not judge her for it because it's not her fault. This is a good example. This woman is a good example of someone who started, their Saturn chakra opened up, right? The bottom chakra, the fear-based media part. She got into fear-based media, all right, in a big way. And, it wasn't the same way it was for me. Maybe it was through a church or something like that. And she started looking at all the bad shit and she realized, holy fuck, things are worse than they are. And some things she was taught weren't exactly true and all that. And, because even in the video, you'll see her, she talks about Christians murdering almost everybody. And she just kind of laughs. But then when she talks about satanic people killing and sacrificing people, right? Then it's the worst thing in the world. But when she talks about Christians going around killing people, she just chuckles. She just chuckles. Like, it's okay if it's the Christians, but if it's the satanic people, no, it's bad. Like, holy fuck. Really? Could you get more polarized than that? Unbelievable. But anyways, I'm going to play her clip, but this is a good example of someone who, probably got that one chakra to open up, started getting there, and then just got stuck. Just got stuck on the Christianity because she probably was scared. It's a scary world. It's a scary thing to face when you see all this, when you get into all the Hollywood, Illuminati, satanic things out there. And there's things out there that are such bullshit, but when you're in that state, it's hard to understand. It's hard to see if it's bullshit or not. People talking about their satanic fucking things and whatever, being in these satanic rituals. And I'm not going to say all that shit is fake, but a good percentage of it is fucking fake. It's there by Christians to perpetuate the fucking Christianity versus witchcraft narrative. It's fucking bullshit. And the people that just fucking buy it, hook, line, and sinker, just take it like, oh my God, are you kidding me? And you know what? When I first got into this, I was in that stage. I was fucking scared. I was like, holy fuck. But I managed to get out of it. I managed to find the spirituality. And within all that darkness, I was able to find the light, find balance. And then over time, I realized that most of that shit was fake. That wasn't in my day-to-day. That is not how life actually is. It's somebody trying to paint that picture, but it's not accurate. But anyways, she's a good example of someone who's imbalanced and who, got stuck and can't move on until she realizes that the thing she's against, she's kind of doing, Like she's condemning a group of people that she doesn't know firsthand what they do, what they believe in or anything. She's going by her religion, what her religion says this other spirituality does. And these quote unquote people that survived fucking satanic whatever, you know what I mean? And it's there probably are satanic cults and shit like that out there. I can't say because I don't know. Like I said, I know some Luciferians, but that's completely different. But it's not what she is saying. She's putting witchcraft, Wicca, and satanic worship all in the same bucket. And that is not the same thing. And even pagans are in that same bucket, She's all one fucking group to her. And it's just wrong what she's doing. But she's imbalanced. She got scared, and she doesn't want to believe that, the spiritual stuff she says. She wants to, because, her belief systems are in her head that Jesus and God are the way, and they'll save her. So she sees all this fear and evil that, is probably, most of it's probably fake and doctrine. Not all of it, but most of it is fake. And she sees it all, and, she needs something to save her. So she's running to Jesus to save her. She said, well, as long as I believe in Jesus, I'm okay. I'm okay. Instead of realizing, all that evil shit, you're capable of doing that shit. Now deal with it. What are you going to become? Are you going to run to Jesus and keep being a good little fucking girl so you don't fucking have to deal with this shit? Well, I hate to tell you, honey, but you're going to have to deal with this shit. You're going to be face to face with some negative, malevolent, satanic energy at some point. And you're going to cry for Jesus, and Jesus is going to let you work it out yourself. Because that's the only way to get better. If Jesus just comes and bails you out every time, you know what I mean? And how is that going to make you any stronger? You're not. It's not. How are you going to teach your kids to be strong? Oh, when there's someone bullying you, just ask for Jesus. Oh, when someone offers you drugs, just ask for Jesus. When you're not sure if you should have sex or not for the first time, go ask Jesus. Are you fucking kidding me? Come on. Anyways. I'll play the clip, and I'll be back after that to dissect some more. All right.
Learned recently, so let's get into it. Halloween, its origins date back around 2,000 years to a practice known as Samhaine. It is spelled Samhain, but pronounced Samhain. It was a pagan ritual held by a people known as the Celts. These people, they were from what is known as modern-day Ireland, the United Kingdom, and northern France. Also the Isle of Man. Not really sure where that is, but so they believed that November 1st was their new year. So October 31st was a night that they believed that the veil between the living and the dead was its thinnest. So they would hold massive rituals and sacrifices on this night in order to ward off these ghosts or spirits that brought about death and crop failure and different other sufferings that they usually went through during the winter months. The Celts had a leadership of a priesthood known as the Druids. The Druids were known as lawyers. They were well versed in the ways of herbal medicines, and also just kind of they took care of all of the everyday decisions and direction of the people, and they also took care of the spiritual aspects of them. The Druids would use this night to do extreme fortune telling, so they would dress in animal skins, and they would fill a large wicker man. It's kind of like a large, it was in the shape of a man, and they would put animals, different types of crops, and also humans inside of it and light it on fire. And this bonfire would be a sacrifice to appease these gods so that hopefully they could make it through the winter. Cool fact, the word druid means knowing or finding the oak tree. And I think I'll do another video about this some other time, but there's a lot of verses about the lofty cedars and oaks of Bashan, and there's a lot in the Bible specifically about oak trees, and I think it has more to do with things that I'm not seeing than probably just analogies. So we'll get into that another time. So Another cool fact is the megaliths that are located all over the world, but specifically the ones in Ireland, like Stonehenge, and there's like many other circular whatever, like temples or places of worship that were created, that still we have no idea how these people who had no technology and, I mean, did not have nearly what we have today, how they were able to build these things and quarry these types of materials from hundreds of miles away and transport these large stones and fit them together so perfectly that you can't even fit a piece of paper in between where the seams are. It's incredible when you look at these. But there is evidence at the ones in particular where the Celts used to live. These things are 3,500 years older than the Celts. There's evidence of these rituals being held even as far back as then. With these megalithic sites basically being alignments of these solar days. So these solar days are the winter solstice, the midsummer solstice, the October 31st fall solstice, and then I believe there's a summer one as well.
Equinoxes, dumbass. Solstice and equinoxes. God. Two equinoxes and two solstices, dumbass.
So when Christianity started taking over the world and the Roman Catholic Church started going around and preaching the gospel and killing as many people as they could, they also killed off most of the Druid priests and implemented Christianity along with mingling it with the pagan traditions of the societies that they were witnessing to. So Halloween started originating in the United States, basically with the Irish immigration. When they came over here, they practiced that, and it kind of just grew throughout the cities. Also, the Catholic Church, I believe in the 8th and 9th century, around that time, the Pope decided to make November 1st All Saints Day, which is, when they honor and worship all the hundreds of saints and whatever deities that they worship in their religion. But the night before was called All Hallows Eve, which had the same connotations. It had the same, going around and, exchanging tricks or treats at the doors, of your neighbors' homes, and children dressing up. The same kind of fall festivities happened on those days just so that they could keep the traditions.
More information, woman. Wrong.
So the date of October 31st was not only important 3,500 years ago with the megalithic structures aligning to these dates, and not only with the practice of the ritual of Samhaine and not only All Saints Day, but even today, pagans, people who practice witchcraft, and self-proclaimed Satanists all hold this day as a peak day in their rituals.
Satanist, you're a fucking idiot. So fucking stupid. Witchcraft or Satanist, you're stupid.
God. This day consists of a lot of witchcraft, rituals, incantations, and sacrifices that are it's a consistent testimony being told, not only by people who have been delivered out of witchcraft or who are practicing now and openly admit it, but of people who are survivors of satanic ritual abuse. Satanic ritual abuse was kind of introduced in the late 70s, early 80s during the satanic panic. Basically, when people started coming forward and children started coming forward claiming that they had been sexually abused, all during a very satanic ritual that either their family members or people in their schools or different various people in the community were holding.
You're an idiot. God, she knows nothing. She knows nothing. People shouldn't be allowed to just say whatever they want. It's not fucking true.
So the media started reporting on it. People started becoming very scared. And, the media kind of turned it into this satanic panic thing, that Satanists really aren't that bad. This really isn't happening, and we can all just kind of like relax. But I would believe that if there still weren't so many testimonies and people that I've personally met who have survived satanic ritual abuse as children.
Satan's not even real, dumbass.
I know who had parents who were high priests in these cults and covens, and they would hold these rituals with their children and other children and do really disgusting and terrible, awful things in honor of Lucifer, in honor of Molech, in honor of Baal, or whatever deity they decided they wanted to manifest at that time. Satanic ritual abuse is a real thing, and we also have to understand that there are thousands of children going missing in the United States every year. In 2018, the FBI reported there were 424,066 NCIC entries for missing children. Every 40 seconds, a child goes missing in the United States. Thousands and thousands of these children are never seen again. There is witness after witness that has come forward and said that during these rituals, these survivors of these rituals, that sometimes 10, 15 children would be sacrificed all at one time during these points. And I used to hear these testimonies and be like, where did they get all these kids from? How is there not more of an uproar? But when you see the statistics, when you see how many children are reported missing and never come home, and that it's not a bigger deal, there's something going on. And I believe that this is something that is very much in practice. There is very much a following, just as much as there's people like me that desire so badly to be all in for Jesus and to run after him and do whatever it takes to be his. There's people on the other end of the spectrum. There's people who are all in for the enemy. There's people that will do anything and stop at nothing, and they are completely demonically possessed and used by evil. There is straight up evil out there.
You're the evil woman. Blaming people and you have no idea who's doing what. All right, she's got about 5 minutes left of her thing. I think she just goes on. I might finish it up. That I had to stop it again. I can't stand hearing it. To take a fact like all the missing children in the world, okay? And you start like she starts off her thing about talking about Halloween, the Druids, and she paints a picture that there was sacrifice done, whatever. whatever she has as facts, were written down that the Druids did human sacrifice or whatever. I don't completely believe that, but I don't completely unbelieve it either, because I'm pretty positive that, at some point there was human sacrifice done. Even the Bible has human sacrifice in it. And I find it completely hypocritical that, she paints a picture that the Druids were, she gives some pretty good, some of it's, some of the facts that I've seen as well. So some of it's pretty standard facts that you'll find. I'm not going to say it's legit or not legit, but pretty standard facts you'll find about it. And painting a picture, and then she'll say they sacrificed. Okay, so the fact that the Christians went around, they slaughtered the Druids, and they slaughtered everybody else. The fact that that's okay, she just laughs about it. But the fact that, the Druids only once a year sacrificed one person, and I'm not saying sacrifice is good, but I'm just assuming that Christians sacrificed. Everybody back then, sacrifice was a thing they did, all right? That was we don't understand it now, but back then, the way their mind worked was different from how our mind works. So to look now, back then, and judge the sacrificing, and not judge the fact that the Christians went around killing, and she just laughs about it. You know what I mean? And then at the end, when she says that I'm all in for Jesus and do what it takes, that's the same mindset that would have no problem go around and killing everybody who's practicing witchcraft, because she believes that we're sacrificing people, which is not fucking true whatsoever. To take a fact of all the kids going missing and just assume that it's witchcraft people sacrificing these kids is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, talk about I forget the word for that, but, that's a pretty big line of that's a pretty big arrow. Kids missing, witchcraft sacrifice, that's a big arrow to fucking make. And it's horse shit. First of all, why do priests molest little boys and do all these things? Well, part of the psychology, and you can look this up too once again, but some of it is because they're suppressing, right? Priests aren't allowed to have sex. Technically, they're not supposed to masturbate. However, I'm pretty sure they lifted that a little bit, but it's not like they're allowed to do it every day or whatever, and I think you can't do a porn or whatever. It's up to do with God. There's stipulations there. However, it is what it is. If you're a priest, if that's the alternative, if you're looking at a little boy and you're thinking some bad thoughts, well, go back in the sin confessional booth there and go fucking rip one off there so you don't touch that child. But point is, they're trying so hard to not do that because they do want to believe in God. They do want to do the right thing. But the problem is they're suppressing that. That is a human emotion, priest or not. That is built within us. Us men, my God, we have trouble not thinking about sex. When you hit puberty until I don't know, I want to say, but even late 20s, it wasn't until the last few years that I'm not so crippled by it. But that's all you could think about is having sex and looking at women over and over and over again. And I'm someone who got to sleep with women when I wanted to, when I could. But these people have to suppress that. It's a human nature. And this is why these dark and sick things happen. Okay, so witchcraft and even Satanism, let's take that. What are they doing? Well, they are expressing their dark side in a ritual environment. They don't need to sacrifice most of the time because they're already expressing their dark side and they're more balanced because of it. All right, I don't know what some of these, anybody who's practicing Satanism, I don't know what they believe or what they do, okay? But I do know that part of my work, part of the fucking curriculum that I've done, and different books have different things, but they all hit this aspect. A lot of these spiritualities, witchcraft, whatever, they may not all be under witchcraft, but you have to go through your shadow side. You got to know what you're capable and not capable of doing. You got to make moral decisions to not do things. You take back your mind and you're trying to improve. Anyways, in my case, I'm not saying there's not dark systems out there because I believe there are dark orders, dark systems and shit like that. But the way she paints the picture is your local neighbor who's doing witchcraft is fucking also kidnapping your kids. And that's not true. It would be some fucking Illuminati shit, which I don't believe in, but it would be, your Bohemian Grove motherfuckers doing shit like this. It would be your fucking presidential, your fucking political parties, your priests, your high up people that are so high that they do this just to get away with it. And they have a dark, sick side that they weren't allowed to express, and now they're expressing it. And a bunch of these like-minded people get together and do that. But the odds of it being someone who is actively working on their dark side, actively trying to embrace it, trying to depolarize. The odds of them kidnapping somebody is highly, highly not logical. It's not going to be it. But the odds of a priest who have such bad press when it comes to the master, or when it comes to the fucking molesting little boys and sexual assaults, all these accusations, and how much money the church is throwing at it, and how many people they're losing the following. I mean, the age of Pisces is almost all done with, or it is already done. It's entering the age of Aquarius. Pisces was the fish, there's Jesus. Now we're getting Aquarius. What does Aquarius do? He pours out the fucking water. The water age is done, motherfucker. Air time now, bud. It's about thoughts, people coming out here and speaking their mind, making their own spirituality, doing it right. I'm not saying the age of Pisces didn't have to happen. I'm sure a lot of what we did had to happen. I'm sure a lot of the people that died didn't have to die, but, like the massacres and shit like that. But we had to be led to this point for this point to happen. So, you know what? It is what it is, but to do what this woman is doing, and, thank God she doesn't have a big following or anything like that. I mean, she probably has more than me, but point is, to say what she's saying and do that is just wrong. Blaming witchcraft, Satanism, paganism for all the people dying out there. You know what I mean? This is the kind of stuff that, when Birch says they're coming for fucking witches, this is the kind of shit that's like, holy fuck. Maybe they are. Enough of these fucking yahoos out there, people watching it, focusing it, believing it, and then they can certainly make a case. But it's a big stretch to say that. Like I said, the people pointing the finger, this bitch right here pointing the fucking finger. Pointing the finger. The people that point the finger are normally the guilty. Now, I'm not saying priests are kidnapping these kids or doing anything like that. I'm saying that with all the bad press they've gotten for molesting these people, and there's already fucking accusations against them for molesting. See, with the Satanism and the witchcraft, they have stories that may or may not have sacrificed people, okay? We have may or may not. But we have real life fucking proof that priests and lawyers and cops and all these, and coaches were molesting little boys left, right, and center. All these guys with jobs and families doing this. The fucking normal Christian people fucking doing this sick, disgusting thing. Why? Because they're not expressing their dark side. Sorry, I'm yelling. It's probably pretty loud. But they're not expressing their dark side. They're not getting it out in a safe way. So they get it out whenever they can't control it anymore. And it just comes out. And whoever's around gets it. And unfortunately, it was these poor victims. But for this bitch, this woman, I try not to judge, okay? No, it's not her fault. But anyways, for this woman to just point the finger, it's like, holy fuck, who are you trying to cover up? Who are you trying to hide? Best defense is a good offense, right? Instead of fucking someone about to get blamed for it, her poor church or her poor priests or poor pastors, about to get the blame for it. She's coming out here and doing this preemptive strike and fucking blaming fucking this big fucking thing, using this Halloween thing. What horse shit. But I'm going to try not to talk about this anymore. After this video, I'm going to let it go. There's a couple more 5-minute videos back and forth, the Christian view, the fucking pagan view, the Christian view, and then I'm going to get into something a little bit new. But yeah, New Year, dumb supper. In case I don't forget to say it later, make sure you put something out for your ancestors. I got some rum, I got some whiskey, and I'm making some food there actually right now, and I got my altar all set up, so it's going to be pretty sick. I'm looking forward to it. I'm coming back home. I'll be done work at 11 tonight there. I don't actually get to do Halloween things, but I'll be home at 11, and I'll be up, so maybe I'll come on at night during the fucking 12 o'clock transition when that veil is the thinnest, go outside and see what we can do and see, and it'd be pretty cool. But anyways, I hope everybody enjoys. I'm going to try to get back on here there. I want to play some stuff about some energies that I put from some New Age, from the Higher Self channel. The girl was talking about some of the New Age energies and the Schumann resonance going through the roof right now, and I'll link to that video so you guys can see the actual graph she has showing the Schumann resonance going as crazy high right now. And I'm going to put something about Scorpio and Mercury and Scorpio, which is the best time for healing magic, except for when it goes retrograde. This is what Frater talks about. And it's going retrograde, I believe, today. Now, as of right now, Mercury is now retrograde in Scorpio, so shit's going to get fucked up. And I don't mean that in the traditional way, but anyways, I'll play the rest of this girl's clip there so you can hear the rest of her polarization towards her fucking cause. But yeah, I really don't want anybody to take from this that Satanist, witchcraft, pagan, anybody is doing this shit. Who knows? I'm sure there is a Satanist, a pagan, or someone practicing witchcraft that might be doing that. But for every one Satanist, pagan, or witchcraft practitioner that is sacrificing or molesting children, there's probably 1,000 priests to that one. Because, there's way more priests than there is probably. Point is, we know they've done this bad shit. Okay? And let's say they can't stop doing this bad shit. We know how the mind works. If you have a habit, if something is in your mind, habitual in your mind, you can want to stop all you want, but you can't stop unless you replace that habit with another habit. So these priests can't stop doing these things. But they can't get caught either. Well, what do? Well, you get rid of the body. And that's a terrible thing to say, and I hope to God I'm fucking wrong, and I'm not blaming. I'm just saying that would be the likely transformation. That would be the likely trend. That would be the evolution. Either they have to stop or that. Because it's not like they're going to be allowed to sleep with women. That's not the case. They haven't changed that. So they still have to keep suppressing their sexual desire, sexual instinct, And okay, well, they can't approach women. They may have tried. Maybe the women, no, I can't sleep with you, you're a priest. Maybe it's really not like on the porns where the woman just gives it to them. Maybe, but maybe not. So what's next? Well, going after the kids. Well, then if you think the kid's going to tell on you, what do? You let your dark side completely have its way with you, because you've been suppressing it so goddamn long. And I'm not saying that's happening. I'm saying it's more likely than the Satanist at home, or the witch at home, or the pagan at home who just believes in earth and the elements, basically. But anyways, oh fuck, I can go on that shit for hours. Oh man, she makes me upset. Just blaming people. You have no idea what's going on. That's evil.
This brings us back to Halloween. On this day that so many Christians, I was trying to look at statistics and get a number of percentages, but it kind of varies depending on Christians who go to church regularly and who don't, and who are in this, religion and that religion of Christianity. So I'm not going to give you a number, but there is a lot of Christians who practice or who partake in different rituals of dressing up and going trick-or-treating and going to fall festivals and going out and celebrating on this day. And they might not call it Halloween. They might call it a Jesus festival. They might call it something else, but it is aligning yourself with a night that is a peak night for pagans and Satanists and Wiccans, that they are doing incantations and rituals and sacrifices, human and non-human sacrifices. This night, that energy is out in the air, and the Lord says that we battle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities in high places. And when we are aligning ourselves with this type of practice, and I'm rejecting it. I'm not practicing Halloween, but we're aligning ourselves with the practices of it. We are giving a foothold to the demonic in our life, to us and to our families. Whether we want to believe it or not, it's the truth. All right, guys, I'm not here to judge anyone at all. I have actively practiced and taken place in Halloween up until last year. It's something that has been embedded and rooted inside of me since I was a kid. I've loved it. I love the theatrics of it. I will use any excuse to get dressed up and paint my face and look like a goober. So it's like, I loved it. I loved the free candy. I loved going out with my friends. I loved scary movies and all of that stuff, but I didn't know why I was doing it, and I didn't understand what it meant, what it all meant, and what I was doing. And as I've grown closer to the Lord, He's really opened my eyes to being a person who lives a life of intention. I want to know why I'm doing what I'm doing. I want to know why I've been doing what I've been doing, and I want to mean it or not. Or if I don't agree with it, I don't want to do it. I believe that we're telling the spirit world what side we stand on when we pick a side to the world, when we are called out of it. So I understand definitely. It's hard when you have children. It's hard when you're mingled with the world. but the Lord is calling us to separate ourselves from that. And I pray for boldness over you all, and strength and direction. And I pray that you share this with your friends and family members who say that they're Christians, who say that they love the Lord. This is not a video to convict, just to educate you all and to get you to think and understand, and just kind of encourage you all to live a life of intention, to know what you're doing, and to pick a side. All right, guys, I love you all. Thank you so much for being so patient with me while I was sick, and for your prayers. It's taken a minute. The enemy does not like this being talked about. Satanic ritual abuse is a real thing. There's many survivors out there that are dealing with this and coming out of it. There's many practicing pagans and Wiccans who actually believe that they're doing good. There's not a bad bone in their body. They honestly believe, they don't even realize that what they're doing is satanic in any way. They believe in this white magic thing that, you know, Disney's taught us that there's good magic and bad magic, and they don't realize that it's all demonic, and it's all just seducing spirits that are luring them away from the Father and closer to hell and closer to torture and closer to demonic oppression in their life. So that's what the New Age is all about, and that's what I'm here to expose. So there'll be more videos like this in the future, but yeah, it's close to Halloween, and I kind of wanted to just talk about this. But I love you guys. I pray you all have a blessed day and are encouraged and blessed by this message, and I will see you all soon. Bye.
We're out of time. I'm not joking about the baby thing.
My name is John Green, this is Crash Course World History, and today we're going to talk about Jesus. So this is a Roman coin from around the time Jesus was born in the Roman Empire, and it calls Augustus, the emperor, the son of God. So let's just state at the outset that in 4 BCE, being the son of God, or at least being the son of a god, was not such an unusual thing. But a poor Jew being the son of God, that was news. Any understanding of Christianity has to start with Judaism because Jesus was born a Jew and he grew up in the Jewish tradition. He was one of many teachers spreading his ideas in the Roman province of Judea at the time, and he was part of a messianic tradition that helps us understand why he was thought of not only as a teacher, but as something much, much more. Let's go straight to the thought bubble. The people who would become the Jews were just one of many tribal peoples eking out an existence in that not very fertile crescent world of Mesopotamia after the agricultural revolution. The Hebrews initially worshipped many gods, making sacrifices to them in order to bring good weather and good fortune, but they eventually developed a religion centered around an idea that would become key to the other great Western religions. This was monotheism, the idea that there is only one true God, or at least that if there are other gods, they're total lamewoids. The Hebrews developed a second concept that is key to their religion as well, the idea of the covenant, a deal with God. The main man in this, the big mocker, was Abraham. Not to make this too much of a scripture lesson, but it's kind of hard to understand the Jews without understanding Abraham, or Abram, as he was known before he had his big conversation with God recorded in Genesis 17. When Abram was 90 years and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be thou perfect. And I'm going to make a covenant with you, and a bunch of cool things will happen, like you're going to have kids, and your descendants will number the stars, and you can have all the land of Canaan forever. It's going to be awesome. I'm paraphrasing, by the way, Thought Bubble. So God promised that Abram would have kids with his wife, even though the dude was already like 99. But there was a catch. This is my covenant, which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man-child among you shall be circumcised. Keep it PG-13, Thought Bubble. Now that is asking a lot from a guy, especially a 99-year-old geezer like Abram living in a time before general anesthesia. But those were the terms of the deal, and in exchange, God had chosen Abraham and his descendants to be a great nation. From this, we get the expression that the Jews are the chosen people. Thanks for keeping it clean, Thought Bubble. So some important things about this God. One, singularity. He, and I'm using the masculine pronoun because that's what Hebrew prayers use, does not want you to put any gods before him. He is also transcendent, having always existed, and he is deeply personal. He chats with prophets, sends locusts, etc. But he doesn't take corporeal form like Greek and Roman gods do. He is also involved in history, like he will destroy cities and bring floods and determine the outcome of wars and possibly football games. Football games. Probably probably most important to us today, and certainly most important to Jesus, this God demands moral righteousness and social justice. So this is the God of the Hebrew Yahweh, and despite the ups and downs, the Jewish people have stuck with him for, according to the Hebrew calendar at least, over 5,700 years. And he is stuck by them too, despite the Jews being on occasion something of a disappointment to him, which leads to various miseries, and also to a tradition of prophets who speak for God and warn the people to get back on the right path lest there be more miseries. Which brings us back to our friends, the Romans. By the time Jesus was born, the land of the Israelites had been absorbed into the Roman Empire as the province of Judea. At the time of Jesus' birth, Judea was under the control of Herod the Great, best known for building the massive temple in Jerusalem that the Romans would later destroy. And by the time Jesus died, an expanded Judea was under the rule of Herod Antipater, also unhelpfully known as Herod. Both Herods ultimately took their orders from the Romans, and they both show up on the list of rulers who were oppressive to the Jews, partly because there wasn't that much religious freedom in an empire, unless you are, wait for it, the Mongols. Or the Persians. Also, they were Hellenizers, bringing in Greek theater and architecture and rationalism. And in response to those Hellenistic influences, there were a lot of preachers trying to get the Jews to return to the traditions and the godly ways of the past, including the Sadducees and the Pharisees and the Essenes and the Zealots. And one of those preachers, who didn't fit comfortably into any of those four groups, was Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus was a preacher who spread his message of peace, love, and above all, justice across Judea during his actually average-length life for his time. He was remarkably charismatic, attracting a small but incredibly loyal group of followers, and he was said to perform miracles, although it's worth noting that miracles weren't terribly uncommon at the time. Jesus' message was particularly resonant to the poor and downtrodden, and pretty radical in its anti-authoritarian stance. He said it was easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get to heaven. He said the meek were blessed, that the last would be first and the first would be last. All of which was kind of threatening to the powers that be, who accordingly had him arrested, tried, and then executed in the normal manner of killing rebels at that time, crucifixion. Also, just to put this question to bed, the Romans crucified Jesus because he was a threat to their authority. Later traditions saying that the Jews killed Jesus, very unfortunate, also very untrue. We're not going to discuss Jesus' divinity because, one, this isn't a theology class, and two, flame wars on the internet make me so uncomfortable that I have to turn to camera 2. Hi there, camera 2. I'm here to remind you that 3, fighting over such things, like fighting over whether the proverbial cake is a lie, rarely accomplishes anything. Plus, 4, what matters to us is the historical fact that people at the time believed that Jesus was the Messiah, the anointed one, the Son of God. And they believed that he would return someday to redeem the world, which leads us to 2 questions about Christianity. First, why did this small group of people believe this? And second, why and how did that belief become so widespread? So why would people believe that Jesus was the Messiah? First, the Jews had a long tradition of believing that a savior would come to them in a time of trouble. And Judea, under the rule of Herod and the Romans, definitely a time of trouble. And many of the prophecies about this Savior point to someone whose life looks a lot like Jesus's. For instance, Isaiah 53 says the person will be misunderstood and mistreated, just like Jesus was. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and as one from whom men hide their face, he was despised, and we didn't respect him. And a lot of the prophecies, like Daniel 7:14, for instance, explain that when the Messiah comes, there will be this awesome new everlasting kingdom. And that had to sound pretty good to people who'd had their autonomy taken away from them. So some religious Jews saw Jesus in those prophecies and came to believe either during his life or shortly thereafter that he was the Messiah. Most of them thought the new everlasting kingdom was right around the corner, which is probably why no one bothered to write down much about the life of Jesus for several decades, by which time it was clear that we might have to wait a bit for this brilliant new everlasting kingdom. I should note, by the way, that the idea of a Messiah was not unique to the Jews at the time. Even the Romans got in on the action. For instance, the Roman poet Virgil wrote of a boy who shall free the earth from never-ceasing fear. He shall receive the life of gods and see heroes with gods commingling. Sound familiar? But Virgil was writing about Emperor Augustus in that poem, not Jesus, which points again to the similarities between the two. Both called sons of God, both sent to free the earth from never-ceasing fear, but one ruled the largest empire in the world, and the other believed that empire and the world needed to change dramatically. So why did the less wealthy and famous Son of God become by far the more influential? Well, here are 3 possible historical reasons. Reason 1, the Romans continued to make things bad for the Jews. In fact, things got much worse for the Jews, especially after they launched a revolt between 66 and 73 CE, which which did not go well. By the time the dust had settled, the Romans had destroyed the temple and expelled the Jews from Judea, beginning what we now know as the Jewish diaspora. And without a temple or geographic unity, the Jews had to solidify what it meant to be a Jew and what the basic tenets of the religion were. This forced the followers of Jesus to make a decision. Were they going to continue to be Jews, following stricter laws set forth by rabbis, or were they going to be something else? The decision to open up their religion to non-Jews, people who weren't part of the covenant, is the central reason that Christianity could become a world religion instead of just a sect of Judaism. And it probably didn't hurt that the main proponent of sticking with Judaism was James, Jesus' brother, who was killed by the Romans. Reason number 2 is related to reason number 1, and it's all about a dude named Saul. No, not that. Yes, Saul of Tarsus, thank you. Saul, having received a vision on the road to Damascus, became Paul and began visiting and sending letters to Jesus followers throughout the Mediterranean. And it was Paul who emphatically declared that Jesus followers did not have to be Jews, that they didn't have to be circumcised or keep to Jewish laws or any of that stuff. This opened the floodgates for thousands of people to convert to this new religion. And the other thing to remember about Paul is that he was a Roman citizen, which meant he could travel freely throughout the Roman Empire. This allowed him to make his case to lots of different people and facilitated the geographic spread of Christianity. Oh, it's time for the open letter? All right. An open letter to the fish. But first, let's see what's in the secret compartment today. Oh, Stan, it's my favorite album, Jesus Christ Superstar, finally available in my favorite format, the cassette. Did I color coordinate my shirt to Jesus Christ Superstar? Yes. Dear Ichthus, so check this out. In the 1st century, when it was still super underground and hipster to be a Christian, you were a secret symbol of Christianity, used to kind of hide from the Romans. Ichthus, the Greek word for fish, was an acronym, and it was a super clever way to talk about religion without anyone knowing that you were talking about it. But you'll never guess what happened. Even in places where it's completely fine to talk about Christianity now and to use, regular Christian symbols like the cross, you have had a huge resurgence thanks to the plastic automobile decal industry. I mean, seriously, Ichthus, I haven't seen a comeback like this since Jesus. Best wishes, John Green. And lastly, Christianity was born and flourished in an empire with a common language that allowed for its spread. And crucially, it was also an empire in decline. Like, even by the end of the 1st century CE, Rome was on its way down. And for the average person, and even for some elites, things weren't as good as they had been. In fact, they were getting worse so fast that you might have thought the end of the world was coming. And Roman religion offered no promise of an afterlife and a bunch of squabbling, whiny gods. Sorry if I offended adherents to Roman religion, but seriously, they squabble. So even though early Christians were persecuted by the Roman Empire and sometimes fed to the lions and other animals, the religion continued to grow, albeit slowly. But then as the Roman decline continued, Emperor Constantine allowed the worship of Jesus and then eventually converted to Christianity himself. And then the religion really took off. I mean, Rome wasn't what it used to be, but everybody still wanted to be like the emperor. And soon enough, there was a new son of God on coins. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Crash Course is produced and directed by Stan Miller. Our script supervisor is Danica Johnson.
We're in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, popularly known as the V&A, and we're looking at an ivory relief carving made around the year 400 CE.
And that's such an important moment in Europe because it's at the end of the 4th century that Christianity becomes the official religion of the Roman Empire and the practice of pagan religions is outlawed.
But what we're seeing here is definitively pagan. The whole panel recalls past tradition, not only in its subject matter, a priestess making a sacrifice at an altar, but also in the style of carving, which recalls through its naturalism ancient Greece and Rome. Look at the two figures. They're shown in perfect profile, the position of the face that the ancient Greeks and later the Romans used to represent nobility. The drapery is depicted with incredible detail.
We can see the fabric pulling around her breast, around her arm, falling over her shoulder. There's a sense of a human body underneath that drapery.
You can see where her knee bends, reminding us that this is informed by the long tradition of showing figures in contrapposto. That is, weight borne on a single leg.
She's so elegant, so noble. All of these things remind me of ancient Greek and ancient Roman sculpture.
One of my favorite passages is the very delicate trim at the very bottom of her drape. Look at the way that the folds wrap around and create a sense of volume even in this thin piece of ivory.
Ivory is a material that was used so often in the classical world and continues to be used through the early Christian, through the medieval periods. It has this lovely creamy color. It gleams in the light.
This was originally part of a diptych. That is, this panel was joined to another. The other panel is in a museum in Paris and shows a similar scene of a woman offering a sacrifice. We're able to get a good deal of information by just looking at this panel. The tree that frames both of the figures is an oak tree, and this is a reference to the god Jupiter. Both figures have ivy in their hair, a reference to the god Bacchus, the god of wine.
So it's quite likely that she is a priestess, and in sprinkling the incense, she's making an offering to the god Bacchus. So you would be insisting on making a pagan image at this moment, at the beginning of official Christianity in the Roman Empire.
Happily, we don't have to guess. Inscribed in the frame at the top, we see a reference to one of the leading senatorial families in Rome, the Samhaine.
And the other ivory panel that this goes with is inscribed to the Nicomachi, another prominent patrician family that the Samhaine were associated with. Both of these noble Roman families wanted to maintain the ancient pagan traditions,
even in the face of the growing importance of Christianity. Art historians suspect that the two panels may have been made to honor an important event that joined these two families. Perhaps it was a wedding, and another theory suggests that it's possible that women from both families were being honored as they became priestesses.
So what we have here is an object that sits at a crossroads between the pagan past and the Christian future of Europe, but which is insistently looking back in its style to pagan ancient Greece and Rome.
The Canaanite people predate the arrival of Israelites by roughly 2 millennia. The Proto-Canaanites arose around 3500 BC as a Mesopotamian-based country and settled in sites such as Ebla, from which we derive the Ebla archive, and other places west of the Euphrates. Canaan is a region in the ancient Near East during the late 2nd millennium BC situated in the southern Levant. The setting comprises regions of Phoenicia, Philistia, and parts which would later be known as Israel. Canaan had significant geopolitical importance in the late Bronze Age Amarna period as the area where the spheres of interest of the Egyptian, Hittite, and Assyrian empires converged. Knowledge of Canaan from archaeological sources is almost exclusively from artifacts dated to the period in which they existed under the hegemony of the New Kingdom. Since the controlled region during that time, much of our knowledge from archaeology comes from the Amarna letters and other documents of governance which record information from the time of Egyptian rule. Much of the primary source knowledge of Canaan stems from excavations in areas such as Tel Hazor, Tel Megiddo, and Gezer. The late Bronze Age state of Ugari, what is now Ras Shamra in Syria, is considered a quintessential source of Canaanite culture and religion, from which was found the Ugaritic texts and other artifacts of Canaanite culture. The Israelite religion is one which originated out of these Bronze Age polytheistic ancient Semitic religious traditions, specifically the Canaanite religion. It exhibits a syncretization with elements from Babylonian religion as well as some Egyptian influences. The religion began as a henotheistic offshoot of the Canaanite worship of El, along with his secondary epithet, Yahweh, which refers to El Yahweh Sabaoth, often translated as Lord of Hosts, which likely means El who creates the armies. El, who was the supreme god of the Mesopotamian Semites, later became the chief god of the Hebrew Bible. In Canaan, he was known to be the father and the ruler of the divines, as well as the creator. The god of the Jews evolved gradually from the Canaanite El, who was the high god of the pantheon, to the Israelite El, who is likewise the chief god of the Hebrews. The essential qualities of the Canaanite El were retained in the god of the Hebrews, along with memories of the theogony of El and the gods. Over time, the Israelite group of Canaanites converged to the sky gods El and his son Baal-Hadad, and El was conflated as Yahweh. Early on, the Israelites also worshipped Yahweh along with his wife Asherah, who was originally the consort of El in the Canaanite tradition. For a long time, scholars of the Hebrew Bible concluded that a major difference between the God of the Bible and the gods of other traditions was that so-called pagan gods had sexual lives and consorts, while Yahweh did not. But in the late 20th century, archaeologists uncovered two intriguing inscriptions from two different Middle Eastern sites. The inscriptions were blessings not only in the name of Yahweh, but also his consort, Asherah. Over time, there was a push towards monolatry, the worship of one god among many, but not necessarily denying the existence of other gods, which made it so that the Israelites' focus on El Yahweh compelled them to make it appear that there was a greater divide between Yahweh and the older god, Baal. Thus, in order to build up and emphasize the distinction between Yahweh and Baal, the Hebrew text goes to great lengths to make Yahweh's conflict with Baal apparent. This marked the trend of Israel rejecting its heritage. Although the Israelites apparently broke off from Canaanite tradition at some point, the essential elements from the Canaanite sources were maintained in the Bible, such as the same dwellings and epithets of El. El resides on Mount Zaphon, and in certain texts he dwells within a tent, just like the tabernacle described in Exodus. Titles of the Canaanite El were preserved in the Hebrew tradition, such as the following: Elyon, which is Most High; Rechem, which is Bull. Also, El was called the god of patriarchs, a warrior, and El was called Olam, which means eternal. These were the names for the Canaanite El, and they became the names for the Hebrew El. Interestingly, Babel, relating to Babylon, is a conjunction of Bab and El, meaning gate of the god. But it was not singly El from which Yahweh evolved, but also Baal-Hadad, the Canaanite storm god. Indeed, also the name which Jews substitute for Yahweh, lest they utter it, is Adonai, the term from Canaanite Adon, which means Lord. It's a synonym for Baal, which also means Lord. The connection between Yahweh and Baal is undeniable. We find narrative instances of the Israelites' understanding of this connection in parts of the Hebrew text, such as Exodus 32:8, crafting of the bull by Aaron and the Hebrews as Moses was on Sinai, in which it is said, "These are your gods, O Israel." We see in the Israelite religion precisely what one should expect to see from a religion evolving from and assimilating religions surrounding it. In numerous passages, Yahweh is depicted as any ancient Near East storm deity, the most notable of which is Baal-Hadad. Like Baal, Yahweh is a warrior who descends from his mountain home, riding on a chariot of clouds. His voice is thunder, and his weapon is lightning. The earth quakes, and the skies release rain at his command. In primeval times, he asserted his authority by defeating the sea, becoming the ruler of the skies. Exodus 15:3 reads, "Yahweh is a warrior. Yahweh is his name." Numbers 23:22. El, who brings them out of Egypt, is for them the horns of a wild bull. Numbers 24:8. El, who brings him out of Egypt, is like the horns of a wild bull for him. He shall devour the nations that are his foes and break their bones. El of the Canaanites was also called bull and warrior. Here are some examples of parallels between Baal and Yahweh as attested to by the Ugaritic literature in the Baal cycle and the Hebrew Bible. "Let me tell you, Prince Baal. Let me repeat, rider on the clouds. Now your enemy, Baal. Now you will kill your enemy. Now you will annihilate your foe. You will take your eternal kingship, your dominion, forever and ever." And the Hebrew Bible reads, "Behold your enemies, Yahweh. Behold your enemies perish. All evildoers are scattered. Your kingship is an eternal kingship. Your dominion is forever and ever." The parallels with Baal extend also to the motif of the mountain where Yahweh revealed himself. There was thunder and lightning and a heavy cloud on the mountain, and Mount Sinai was covered with smoke, because Yahweh descended upon it in fire, and the whole mountain trembled violently. The same imagery is used of Baal's theophany. Then Baal opened a break in the clouds. Baal sounded his holy voice. Baal thundered from his lips. The earth's high places shook. The association of Yahweh as a storm god is also echoed in Judges chapter 5, verses 4 through 5. Yahweh, when you went out from Seir, when you marched from the highland of Edom, the earth shook, and the heavens too streamed, and the clouds streamed with water, the mountains shook, before Yahweh, the one of Sinai, before Yahweh, the God of Israel. And Psalm 104, verse 3, Yahweh sets the beams of his chambers on the waters. He makes the clouds his chariot. He rides on the wings of the wind. There is also a shared emphasis on the seventh day. For it was on the seventh day of Daniel's incubation rite in the temple that Baal intercedes for him and El blesses him, just as it is on the seventh day that Yahweh called to Moses on the cloud-covered mountain. Indeed, the characteristic origin of Yahweh in the roots of El and Baal is preserved in Hosea 2:16, which reads, Yahweh says, you will call me my husband, and no longer my Baal. Frank M. Cross suggested in 1973 a potential connection with the Egyptian deity Ptah, who is given the title Dugiti, Lord of Gath, in which Ptah is called Lord Eternal, and that it may be this identification of El with Ptah that led to the epithet Olam, which means eternal, so early and so consistently with the Israelites. Another similarity is that both the gods Ptah and El create the world through their very will, and not through a divine battle between gods. The Jews also seem to be oddly concerned with circumcision, which serves as another connection to Egyptian culture. The earliest historical record of circumcision comes from Egypt in an inscription of the tomb at Saqqara dating to around 2400 BC. While circumcision might have been done for hygienic reasons, it was for the Egyptians part of their obsession with purity and was associated with spiritual and intellectual development. These connections would all make sense considering the Levant was politically and culturally dominated by the Egyptian Empire in the time the Israelites are thought to have arisen by the end of the Late Bronze period. However, it is probably not until Iron Age I that a population began to identify itself as Israelite, and the earliest documented instance of the name Israel is from the Egyptian stele of Merneptah, around 1208 BC, in which it records that Israel is laid waste, and his seed is not. The earliest possible occurrence of the name Yahweh is as a place name in the Egyptian inscription from the time of Amenhotep III, who reigned from 1402 to 1363 BC. It refers to the land of Yahu, which is the land of the Shashu, being nomads from Midian. Thus, the worship of Yahweh seems to have originated in areas south of Israel. The name Yahweh, which can take on various forms in the Semitic tongue, of Yah for theophoric purposes, for example, Adonijah, which is Adon, master, and Yahu, referring to Yah or Yahweh, contains the core name Yah. Along with being the chief and ruler god, Yahweh shares unequivocal resemblances to the Sumerian god Yah, who is culturally synonymous with Marduk and Baal-Hadad. Yah and Yah, or Yahweh, are virtually the same god. The Torah draws heavily from other ancient Near East influences which pre-existed it, incorporating and modifying them. Things such as the laws of Eshnunna, Hammurabi, Middle Assyrian laws, and Ur-Nammu. The covenant theme, which runs throughout, is known to be directly related to the Hittite suzerainty contracts and the vassal treaties of Esarhaddon. One example of the covenant theme from outside the Hebrew Bible lies in the Phoenician-inscribed Arslan Tash amulets, which refer to the Eternal One's covenant, a council of holy ones, and the sons of El. Interestingly, there's also a 5th century AD Christian amulet from Cyprus which associates Re and Osiris with Yahweh and Jesus in imagery on one side and a palindrome text on the other, stating Yahweh is the bearer of the secret name, the Lion of Re secure in his shrine. This is interesting because the throne of El is depicted with features of a lion, and the earliest possible instance of El in an artifact depicting him with 2 lions. The Israelite accounts of creation contain clear allusions to ancient Near Eastern cosmogonies. The first verses draw upon the Babylonian epic Enuma Elish, which means when on high. Both begin with a temporal clause, the book of Genesis beginning with when El created the sky and earth, in which also nothing existed but primeval waters, male and female, fresh and salt, Apsu and Tiamat, respectively. The god Marduk manages to create the world by destroying Tiamat with wind, ripping her asunder and forming the sky and the earth from her carcass. Genesis applies the same styles and motifs of its ancient Near Eastern setting, only demythologized, that lacks any theogony of the gods which the texts discuss. The memory of the battle narrative, though, is preserved in other parts of the Tanakh. There are still significant differences, however, between typical ancient Near East religious traditions and the Hebrew Bible, the most remarkable feature being the suppression of mythology in the Hebrew tradition. There is no biography or theogony of Yahweh. While the Bible is not mythology, it does indeed contain myths and legends. The polemical inversion of the Hebrew narrative, as opposed to other myths, is apparent in the emphasis on human importance and dignity created in divine image, which is lacking in the narratives of their ancient Near East neighbors, where humans tend to be menials. Human affairs are the theme of importance in the biblical account, and thus the absence of mythologized stories of gods is substituted with mythologized stories of humans. In that sense, the often suggested question, is the Bible trustworthy in depicting historical events, is a wrong question, to which the answer would be no. A better question would be, is the Bible trustworthy in depicting historical opinions? And the answer to that is an obvious yes. The text of the Torah is constituted of at least 5 sources as described in Wellhausen's theory. J. Yahwist, written around 950 BC in Judah. E. Elohist, written around 850 BC in Israel. D. Deuteronomist, written around 600 BC in Jerusalem. P. Priestly, written around 535 in exile of Babylon. And R. Redactor, which is the final edition of the combined sources. Although Wellhausen's dates have been disputed, and any of the sources could be decades, if not centuries later. In fact, the Hebrew Bible itself explicitly admits this sort of phenomena when it cites prior sources at many times. For example, the Book of Jasher, the Book of the Wars of Yahweh, and the Book of Iddo the Seer. This is not necessarily a modern idea either of Wellhausen's, considering the fact that similar analysis was concluded by scholars such as Baruch Spinoza, Thomas Hobbes, and Jean Estruc in the 1600s. In J-text, Yahweh is the most anthropomorphic, forming man from clay with his hands, enjoying walks in the cool of evening, stitching clothes for Adam and Eve from animal pelts, enjoying the food Abram cooks for him, speaking face to face with humans, being bargained with, and so forth. J is particularly interested in the traditions of Judah, and it supports Judah against Israel. For example, suggesting that Israel acquired its capital at Shechem by massacring the inhabitants. And J supports the priests who descend from Aaron, who were established in Jerusalem, the capital of Judah. While Wellhausen placed the date for J-text at around 950 BC, a crucial study by H.H. Schmid demonstrated that J was conscious of the prophetic works of the 7th century BC, while the prophets did not know of the traditions of the Torah, meaning that J cannot be earlier than the 7th century BC. Many current theories place J even later, such as that of Russell E. Gmirkin. E-text is characterized by its virtually exclusive use of the plural term Elohim for the deity, along with its use of the phrase fear of God. It holds a rather abstract view of the deity, and strangely uses Horeb instead of Sinai for the mountain where Moses received the laws. E-text, favoring Israel, represents traditions from the northern kingdom of Israel, and exhibits a fascination with its heroes such as Joseph and Joshua, speaking negatively of Aaron, for example, claiming that he led the Israelites to worship the golden calf. Before the redactor edited it, e-text told the story of Abraham and Isaac, in which Abraham is not stopped, and Isaac never appears again, suggesting rather that Isaac was sacrificed. And the early tradition, recorded in the Midrash, still preserves the version of the tale in which Isaac was killed. While the J-text depicts the anthropomorphic God that is involved with humans on earth, the Elohist source frequently involves angels, for example, telling of a ladder of angels that leads up to El, whereas in J, this is simply a dream in which God is above the location. E-text also goes to excessive lengths to depict the Egyptians negatively, and it depicts Moses as threatening Pharaoh and bringing the plagues himself. The priestly source, P-text, is unique among the other sources, and is characterized by significant contradictions with them. In P-text, Aaron and the priesthood have an exalted status, and there is no sacrifice ordained by God at Sinai. Ritual laws and origins of shrines are stressed, as is the role of priests. Unique to P is the assertion that only descendants of Aaron were allowed to officiate in the inner sanctum. P's God is majestic and transcendent, and according to P, all things occur because of his power. Also unique to P is that the deity reveals himself in stages, first as Elohim, then as El Shaddai to Abram, and then as Yahweh, only to Moses and those following him. In Exodus 6:3, Yahweh reveals his name to Moses, saying that no one had yet known this name, and Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob only knew him as El Shaddai. But according to J-text in Genesis 15, Abraham clearly knows the name of Yahweh, and Yahweh himself says, I am Yahweh. P is significantly concerned with holiness, meaning ritual purity, and Israel is posited as a priestly kingdom and holy nation, with elaborate rules that are aimed at preserving this purity. Most scholars agree that P source was written either during or after the exilic period around 530 BC. The Deuteronomist source, although found mostly in Deuteronomy through 2 Kings, underlies much of the Hebrew Bible. The Deuteronomistic history originated independently of the books Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, and the history found in the Book of the Chronicles. Scholars trace all or most of it to the 6th century BC. It tells of a story in which a book of the law was supposedly found during the reign of King Josiah, and which caused the king to embark on a series of religious changes. It has been suggested that this source was manufactured in order to validate his program of religious change. Deuteronomist theology is conceived in the form of the suzerainty or covenant between Israel and Yahweh, who elected them and requires them to live according to his law. Under this treaty, Yahweh has granted a conditional promise to the Israelites of the land of Canaan. The interpretation asserted in D-text explains Israel's successes as the result of obedience and its failures as the result of disobedience. Contrary to the other three texts, in which independent shrines or priesthoods are represented as legitimate, D-text insists on a centralized worship around the temple in Jerusalem. Lastly, D-text asserts all Israelites as brothers and sisters, and each will answer to God for his treatment of his neighbor. These four texts were combined at 2 points in time by editors or redactors, who appear to have kept as much as possible from the source documents, firstly by combining J and E to form JE. The redactor of JE is thought to have added very little, only a few phrases in the attempt to remove serious contradictions and maintain the flow of the story between the texts. The main exception to this is in the story of Abraham sacrificing Isaac, where the redactor added an angel stopping Abraham and replacing the boy with a ram. During the Babylonian exile, JE was unified with P and E by a different redactor, which many theorize to be Ezra during the time of Cyrus the Great. And that, as we have it, is the combined sources of the Hebrew Bible.
Retrograde. This time, we're having the Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, and it's going to be happening from October 31st, yes, on Halloween, all the way until November 20th. So sit down and buckle up as we get to talk all about the Mercury retrograde happening in Scorpio. And, of course, I just want to thank you guys for watching this video, liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. And if this is your first time on my channel, I welcome you here. My name is Cameron Wyatt. I'm a professional astrologer, and I do weekly horoscopes, monthly horoscopes, and a lot more. But I always make sure I do a Mercury retrograde video for every single Mercury retrograde that happens throughout the year. So let's go ahead and start talking about this one. In this video, I'm going to be covering all of the logistical stuff about this Mercury retrograde, about what days it's going to be doing stuff on, when it's going to retrograde, station direct, also what aspects it's going to be making to other planets as well, because that always, of course, changes the flavor a little bit of each Mercury retrograde. And then more towards the end of this video, I'm going to be talking more about what this Mercury retrograde means and what's going to be coming up for it, what it's really going to look like and feel like, and really how to work with it, not necessarily to be against it, because this is a Mercury retrograde. You know, it's going to cause problems. It's going to cause, you to review and reflect on things like most Mercury retrogrades do. So Mercury retrogrades usually about 3 times every single year, and it's a very, very common theme. It's Mercury. Mercury's about minuscule things, so it's not always the end of the world like everyone says that it is. Now, Mercury retrogrades are about 3 things: revisiting, reviewing, and reflecting. Mercury retrogrades are all about bringing something up to you that you've got to come right back over to handle, and it's kind of annoying, it's kind of frustrating, but that's how life works. But what's awesome about Mercury retrogrades is that it can give us insight into what exactly it is, that part of our lives where we have to kind of go over again and retrace our steps and, fight back over to kind of get over that hump. So before we talk about what Mercury is actually doing while it's retrograde, let's talk about Mercury and the sign Scorpio so we can understand the themes of this retrograde better. Mercury is the planet of communication, of our ideas, how we think, how we speak, how we vocalize our thoughts, how we, write things down. This is, Mercury's all about communication. Now, with Mercury being the messenger, being the communicator, this is why you often hear so many times that Mercury retrograde gives you problems with communications, with, technology, because Mercury does have an association with that. However, let's talk about the sign Scorpio. Scorpio is a water sign, so this does have to do with more of an emotional state. Not necessarily emotions of bad or good, but feeling them overall. Scorpio is a fixed sign, so it likes to make things stay the same way. It likes the consistency. It likes to be in charge. However, one thing that is really talked about with the sign of Scorpio is the fact that it rules hidden things. It's all about the dark. It's all about secrets. It's all about mystery. It's all about, not being vulnerable and being protective. Scorpio is ruled by the planet Mars, so there's a lot of active and energized, feelings when it comes to Scorpio. Scorpio likes to be reclusive. It likes to be in the dark. It likes to hide away. Scorpio is all about the hidden things that we don't always see. And so when you have Mercury retrograding in the sign, this is where you might have miscommunications or communication errors with things that you might not have seen before, or something that kind of gets unearthed, something that comes out from the shadows that you may not have expected. And so with that being said, we'll of course dive more into that, but let's start talking about the logistics here. So every Mercury retrograde really begins when Mercury enters its shadow phase. Now, the term shadow is all about focusing on the area of the sky that Mercury will go over once, retrograde, go back over, and then station direct and move forward over again. Now, that shadow period is right where Mercury will station direct after it retrogrades. And so when Mercury transits through that shadow period before it stations retrograde, this is the area where you're going to start to see things come up that will eventually be dealt with during the Mercury retrograde. And this is why I bring it up in these Mercury retrograde videos. It is an important part. But on October 11th, that's when Mercury does enter its shadow. So this is where you can start to see the themes of this Mercury retrograde and the errors and more of the mishaps and the problems that you can have during Mercury retrograde start to appear more and more. Then, of course, on Halloween night, Mercury stations retrograde at 27 degrees Scorpio. It's going to be going retrograde at 5 p.m. So right before you go out and party or you go and trick-or-treat, you are going to have a very interesting night. And I think that it's not necessarily bad or good. Mercury retrogrades are more of kind of an annoyance type thing, and you might find the repercussions of that bad, or you might find the repercussions of that favorable. However, as Mercury does station retrograde, it is going to be conjoining the planet Venus.
I was right out of college and my teeth were
Now, what's important about this is while Mercury is the messenger, the communicator, while it's conjoining a planet, this is where it's speaking that planet's message out a little bit more. It's turning up the volume a little bit higher. And that planet that it's vocalizing and amplifying is going to be Venus in Scorpio. Now, Venus is the planet of love, value, romance, connection, bringing things together, and indulgence. However, she's in her sign of detriment in Scorpio, meaning she doesn't operate as well. She can't do the Venusian things that she would normally like to do. She has to do Mars things, because this is Mars's house. And with Venus in Scorpio, you get this theme and this characteristic of like hidden agenda, hidden values, hidden pleasures. Venus in Scorpio can also be very straightforward about what it does want. Venus in Scorpio can definitely have signs of possessiveness or wanting to hold on to something. Venus in Scorpio also likes to enjoy the things that are harder to find and the more, and the more obscure, weird things that it can get its hands on. Venus in Scorpio, is in the sense of art, is kind of like a weird art fixture that kind of gives off creepy vibes, but it's kind of cool because it's an antique. So when Mercury goes retrograde while it's conjoining Venus, I think that this is going to bring out not only those Mercury retrograde themes of miscommunications, revisiting, our thoughts, thinking about things we didn't think about before, but with Venus being in Scorpio, I think this is going to bring up hidden values and hidden wants that we didn't know that we wanted or that we know that we needed. And I think while Mercury retrogrades, this is us kind of pondering that question of, what do I really want? What do I really value? And what am I really holding on to? What's worth holding on to? And I think that speaks a lot about that Venus and Scorpio aspect of this retrograde. Now, the next big thing that's happening is Mercury will be then conjoining the Sun in an inferior conjunction, also known as Cazimi, on 11/11, which you can make that magical all you want, but I think it's kind of cool, but it's not too big of a deal. It just so happens to line up that day. But anyway, as Mercury conjoins the Sun and goes Cazimi, this is the part of the Mercury retrograde where things start to clear up a little bit more. So when Mercury conjoins the Sun, it's called Cazimi, and this is all about a planet getting purified by fire, getting, kind of sitting on a king's lap for the whole world to see. And the idea of it is that this planet kind of gets purified by fire, and answers start to become a little bit more clear and a lot more direct. And as Mercury conjoins the Sun in Scorpio, I think that this is when a lot of those truths will become revealed and a lot more answers will start to become clear, and exactly where you need to go and where you need to direct yourself becomes also clear as well. Now, what's also astronomically very rare about this Mercury retrograde and this Mercury Cazimi is Mercury is actually going to transit the Sun. That means Mercury is actually going to go over the Sun from our view, which is pretty cool. And if you have the right telescope to see it, go check it out. But also what I find interesting about this Mercury Cazimi is the very next morning there will be the full moon in Taurus, and full moons are very notorious for bringing awareness to things, bringing light to things. And so while Mercury conjoins the Sun and answers become a lot more clear, truths become a lot more revealed, and maybe some secrets start to become, brought into the open, this full moon in Taurus is also going to raise a lot more awareness and bring a lot more light into the picture, which I do think is going to be beneficial, because you have to remember, this is a Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. This is stuff happening in the dark and in the background that you may not see. So maybe you do want some of this stuff to come up. But then the next day, on November 13th, that is when Mercury is going to simultaneously sextile Saturn and trine Neptune. Now, while Mercury is sextiling Saturn, this is giving us some constructive help when it comes to getting a better foundation, kind of aligning ourselves with our goals, and getting a little bit more fortified with our commitments and our responsibilities. However, as Mercury trines Neptune, this is where things start to open up into a lot more dreamy, a lot more, out there kind of perspective. Neptune is about illusion, about fantasy, about dreams, but it's also about deception. So Neptune can kind of give you some rose-colored glasses to view the world on, which can be beneficial when it comes to being creative and artistic and wanting to see things through a more, open way. But also as Mercury trines Neptune, this is where things can become a little bit confusing and a little bit blurry, because as Mercury is retrograde in Scorpio, it's very focused on one aspect and one point. That trine to Neptune can make you leave you making interpretations and making up scenarios that don't exist. However, as Mercury does trine Neptune, this is also going to be a kind of a good time to really look at, all right, is this the truth that I'm really looking at, or is this a false narrative that I'm believing? And I think that's going to be a really important theme as Mercury retrogrades. But then on November 20th, that is when Mercury stations direct finally at 11 degrees of Scorpio. Now, when Mercury stations direct, this is when what we received during this Mercury retrograde, what was brought to us, what needed to get, handled again and readdressed. As Mercury goes direct, this is when you can start to do those things and have a lot more of a better opportunity to handle it and address it the way that you wanted to. Doing things during a Mercury retrograde, you got to do what you got to do. However, it will kind of have some frustrations. You will have some blockages. But as Mercury stations direct and it starts to go over its shadow period again, this is when you get to go over everything. This is when you get to, put that direct motion and start to move forward with the things that, Mercury retrograde made you keep coming back to, and finally get to end all of it. And then Mercury leaves shadow on December 7th and gets out of Scorpio, because it'll be at 27 degrees Scorpio when it leaves shadow, and then like the next day or the day after that, it moves into Sagittarius. And of course, by that time, Jupiter will be in Capricorn, which is quite a bit to kind of think about, because we're going into a really big next year, but that's another video. So I guess my final thoughts on this Mercury retrograde is we got to remember, Scorpio is about like the dark. It is about the hidden. Like I was just tweeting about this earlier about how, Scorpio does rule the genitals, but the genitals are a very protective part of us where, try to, keep those private. We try to hide those and keep those away from the eye. And I think that just speaks a lot to Scorpio's characteristics. But this is a Mercury retrograde. What needs to get brought up and reviewed? What needs to get reflected on? What needs to be brought from the ground and brought into the daylight to see again? It's kind of like a time capsule almost. But what I really think is going to be important is during this time, allowing those scary things to come up. There's no need to push, something down into the ground if it's trying to make its way up. And as Mercury retrogrades through the sign of Scorpio, there's going to be a lot of things that come up for you. And if it's like, for me, it's in my 12th house. And the 12th house is all about hidden parts of yourself, the subconscious parts of yourself. And so as Mercury retrogrades through my 12th house, there's going to be a lot of things that come up for me that I might not have expected. But I know what is going to help me is going to actually be reviewing these things. And as they come up, address them, crossing that bridge when you get there. But the big thing is not to hide anything. Let it be exposed. Let it be vulnerable. That's the kind of the beauty with Scorpio. But the other part about Scorpio, that Mars side of Scorpio, that's all very vindictive, that's very direct, that's very revengeful in a sense, and that's not to put a bad name on that, but those are just qualities that you can see with Scorpio and that Scorpio is kind of all about. With this being in Scorpio, don't be afraid to defend yourself. Don't be afraid to pierce this veil. Don't be afraid to, see things the way that they are, because the one thing about Scorpio is, like, there's no hiding from Scorpio. There's only, being exposed, and Scorpio is all about locking in that target. I make this analogy a lot, but like Aries is kind of like the Marine soldier when we're talking about like Mars energy. And Scorpio is kind of like the sniper that can like sit in a tree for like 36 hours in one spot and just wait for the perfect shot at the perfect time and then pull the trigger at the perfect moment. That's Scorpio. That's sitting there going, I know it's going to happen. I see it coming up, even though there's nothing else here that says it will. And then right when it's there, you already locked on. You already have the shot. And you just pulled the trigger. And so during this Mercury retrograde, I want you guys to remember that like things are going to come up. Let them be exposed. You're going to have miscommunications. Work on communicating, because with Mercury being in Scorpio, it's going to be easy to just talk right back to people. It's going to be easy to just snap. It's going to be easy to just kind of like say whatever you want. And, we should treat people kindly. We shouldn't have to, apologize all the time for what we say. So during this time, focus on what you're talking about. Focus on what the meaning and why you're saying things, or why you are saying what you are saying. But you guys will survive this Mercury spooky grade. Scary things are going to come up, but you will live. We're going to get through this. Everything is going to be fine. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave me a like. Leave me a comment of what you think. Leave me a comment of what house this is going to be retrograding in for you and what you think that you're going to be expecting in your own life for me in the comments below. And with that being said, thank you guys again so much for being here. And I will be seeing you next time Mercury goes retrograde.
I don't need...
Hello there, it's Tanya Gabrielle, Wealth Astrologist. Welcome to Star Codes, where today we're going to look at Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, a very powerful moment at the end of the year. Now, Mercury retrograde always represents a time to look within, and Mercury is the planet of communication, of language, of how we think, what our mindset is, how we communicate. So when Mercury goes retrograde, which happens about 3 times a year for 3 weeks every time, it is a really amazing moment for us to recalibrate, look within, and get to some deeper truths. And in Scorpio especially, Scorpio is a sign that dives into the depths of our unconscious and brings to our attention what we need to see. So today we're going to cover all the themes and energy patterns related to this powerful Mercury retrograde. We're going to cover the degree numbers, 27 degrees on October 31st. That's when Mercury actually stations. We'll also look at the wonderful conjunction that Mercury makes with Venus at the onset of the retrograde, which is awesome. And then we'll look at what happens with another planet on November 20th, which is when Mercury stations direct. So lots to cover. And of course, we'll end with those tips that will help you leverage this very important moment in your personal and professional life. So that's what we're covering. So let's first start with the fact that Mercury is part of the major stellium event in Capricorn on January 12th that, of course, we're feeling now already as Saturn and Pluto come together. Those are the two main characters in the play here, but also the Sun and Mercury will be joining them, and that's why it is a stellium. So when Mercury has its retrograde for the final time before this big event, it really means a lot. The other thing is Mercury's retrograding in Scorpio, which is the sign that Pluto rules, Pluto being one of the main players in this big moment. So since Mercury will be spending so much longer in Scorpio due to the retrograde, really early October, October 3rd, all the way till December 9th, Mercury will be in Scorpio. This is a big deal. And in this case, because Pluto is about purging and empowerment, the purging precedes the empowerment, of course, we will be purging the past in a big way, emotionally pressing the reset button in a big way. So this will require a lot of emotional reflection. Now, the Mercury retrograde itself in Scorpio really enhances emotional intimacy. Scorpio governs the 8th house in astrology, which deals with our relationships, and it is the part of the relationship that is more private, sexuality, money that is shared, life, death, rebirth. So that intimacy is really enhanced. So your conversations will be extra tender and loving, and you really get into deeper matters and seek truth with your partner. This also represents any relationship. It doesn't have to be a partnership. It's a great time to build and create positive changes and to listen, because you want to be heard, but also the other person who you're communicating with wants to be heard. Now, Scorpio can be obsessive as it dives into the core of why things are happening, the truth, and Mercury likes to gather information. So this combination means you need to be careful not to go down a rabbit hole obsessively researching something or hanging on to a certain emotional conviction and going overboard with it. So you definitely want to understand the truth. You want to allow information that you haven't previously understood or seen to clear up confusion. And then you want to stay in that emotionally balanced place. So that means setting up boundaries physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You need to have those boundaries so that you don't go overboard. Now, if you are in a relationship that has a not so good impact on your life, right? This is a time to remove yourself from it. Mercury retrograde is always about reflection. And so in this case, you want to really make sure that you accept what is not working. And that goes for your habits as well. That goes for any tendencies you have, whether it is health-oriented, diet-oriented, exercise-oriented, or related to not moving forward with a project in your career environment. It could be really anything. Moving forward in any regard, that something that you have emotional hang-ups or fears about, because Scorpio rules are deep down fears. So we want to confront those and acknowledge that it's not so complicated and it's a lot simpler to just get on with it and not hold on to these, feelings of, what if this happens? What if that happens? The fear, the worrying about the future aspect, that really needs to be addressed. Now, shared finances are governed by Scorpio, so this is a good time to sit down with your partner, your accountant, whoever it is who works with you, to make sure your personal and business finances are flowing well. And in any case, you want to keep any conversations very caring, very sweet, very loving. Scorpio is a water sign and can get very intense. And so you don't want to get into the blaming others or getting overwhelmed emotionally and then reacting with the stinger, the Scorpio stinger, which, you don't want to hurt people. So you want to bring deep affection and total integrity and warmth and a caring curiosity into all your conversations now. What helps is to actually understand not only yourself, most importantly, but also the people in your life. So one way you can really understand them to the core is to discover their birth code. And you can do that at starcodeclass.com. That's where you just plug in the birthday, and if you have a birth certificate name, even better. And then you can construct an astrology chart as well. And I take you through all the important meanings of your star code or the star code for somebody that you're understanding better. So just go to starcodeclass.com. It's a really fun, free masterclass. Now, Mercury stations retrograde on October 31st at 27 degrees Scorpio. And then it stations direct again at 11 degrees on November 20th. So let's take a closer look at these two numbers. First of all, 27 reduces to 9, 11 reduces to 2. These are numbers of love and intimate connections, which is why I'm focusing so much on that conversational intimacy that needs to be very cleared up and sensitive. So 11 represents two people coming together. It is the number that represents a portal, so intuition. Scorpio is so psychic, and the number 11 is very psychic. And the direct motion happens in the 11th month as well, so that opens up an 1111 code. And 27 degrees is very much connected to compassion, to unconditional love, to courage, to power, harmony, excellence. It is a number of leadership, of authority that is wise. It brings great rewards when you use your creativity and your imagination, because the number 9 that 27 reduces to is in a 3-6-9 triad in numerology. That is all about creativity and love and using your imagination and self-expression. Remember, Mercury is the planet of expression, meaning you communicate in a certain way. And we're going to go into that in the tips later on things to watch out for. So you, as long as you carry out with the number 27 your own goals, your own ideas, and not be intimidated by the opinions of other people, this is really a very powerful vibration of loving leadership. And then 11 is an intuitive master number as well. So if you have any opposing energy in your life, like somebody who is interfering in your life, division that you're feeling, anything like that, you need to look at that very closely. We're also, like I said, November is the 11th month, so it always is about, if there is an opposing force, you need to find out what it is and either compromise or let go, right? So it is about bringing those two pillars together, walking through the gateway of intuition so that you have guidance. And in ancient times, the 11 represented an initiation as you walk through the columns into the place of initiation. So you'll be given a lot of opportunities during this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio to harmonize and unite any inner division that you may feel. Also, the double one is very creative. It's very original. So you're being asked to really be that person who creates your reality and uses your artistic sense as well to create that inner peace and that connection with the divine. So how can you best use this amazing Mercury retrograde in Scorpio in your life? So that's where we turn to the transit that begins the whole thing. Mercury and Venus are conjunct at the moment that Mercury actually changes direction on October 31st. And this is so wonderful. As you can imagine, Venus is about love. It is about abundance. It is about beauty. So this means that really the ultimate expression of this Mercury retrograde for you is to express your love for others, of course, and also your love for what you feel engaged with, what lights you up from the inside. Venus is very joyful, and this combination gives you the appreciation that you need to give back, but also to be very grateful, to cherish your life, to cherish others, to understand that you are a creative being. And it's a great time to just acknowledge that and wrap up creative projects that are incomplete during the retrograde. Spend time listening, attending art events, music, drama, dance, whatever it may be. Get inspired. And also this conjunction with Mercury and Venus favors any kind of contracts and transactions. It's very connected to abundance. So this is very exciting. And then when Mercury actually changes direction to move direct again on November 20th, on that same day, Mars enters Scorpio. This is unbelievable. This is so serendipitous because Mars is the co-ruler with Pluto, Scorpio. Mars is the original ruler of Scorpio. So Mars moving into what is a home sign for Mars will activate a quest for success in a big way. And because Mercury will be stationing direct at that point, you will be really fired up. You will have gone through a major transformation, purging, empowerment, reboot, and then you'll be single-mindedly focused on your goals. So you're able to penetrate through the surface and experience profound healing, profound activation, profound feelings, and you won't be so inclined to avoid issues, which of course we all do when we procrastinate or don't want to see something. So that means you won't be skirting around things, wasting time, doing things that don't make sense anymore. So what you want to do is you want to feel those deep emotions in order to release and break through during the actual retrograde, leave mediocrity behind, in other words, in order to take advantage of the moment when Mercury stations direct in Scorpio and Mars enters that sign on the same day. Now let's look at some tips and takeaways. Of course, with any Mercury retrograde, because it governs the mind, reflection is very important. So in Scorpio, this is even more emphasized. This ability to listen for the truth, to uncover profound truths, and to be ready to accept and embrace the truth, and that is the empowerment part. So Mercury governs language and how you communicate and how you think. So you have an important moment here to understand the deep impact of your thoughts, of your written words, your spoken words, and understand that language is the framework that really defines meaning in our life. The language we use is so important. And Scorpio goes to the core of how your words reach you and reach others. We understand the world, and we understand others through the words they speak or write to us. So those words literally determine your reality. And when you, for example, refer to obstacles as opportunities, you will stretch and grow instead of defend yourself and fold up and decide to look the other way and ignore the truth. So always refer to obstacles as opportunities, and you will find a way through those obstacles. Refer to frustrations as emotions that actually need your attention so that you can process and let go instead of lash out, right? And always use language that is highly motivational, that is positive, that is inspired, that is high vibrational when you're with others. And if you can't, then listen to really hear what would be appropriate in that moment to say. Sometimes we don't have the words, our ego mind, our personality, whatever it is, we've had a busy day, we're tired, whatever, we can't find the words. It's best to not say anything and just listen, take a break, and then you will definitely receive what you need to say, or not say anything at all and pause. Pauses are very, very profound. This happens in music as well. A pause is part of the music, and it is part of any really good conversation to take that time and not constantly be going. When we have a retrograde in the first place, we are meant to slow down more, right? So it's a really good call to action to do that. So refrain from negative language, negative thinking. Instead, use the language of passion. Scorpio is so passionate and such a psychic, intuitive sign. And so this beautiful, divinely inspired passion is what you want to tune into. Scorpio and the ruler Scorpio, Pluto, co-ruler Mars, they govern leadership. They govern going for it. They govern being the director of your life, being the conductor of your life, not succumbing to outside pressure. And you can only do that when you are listening and in tune. So you want to use leadership language because it is the language of possibility and it is the language of love. Wise leadership is what you're looking for here. And when you come through this retrograde with Mercury, you're going to be very emboldened and very ready then for that big event in Capricorn in January is when it comes together. But it's really ramping up now because Saturn and Pluto are coming closer and closer together. And by the time we are through this Scorpio period, we will be in a place in December where we can really take advantage of the profound change, quest for truth, leadership, empowerment, joy that we are meant to be feeling every day. Now, there are a couple other things that I'm getting with this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, and that is that healing, deep, profound, exquisite healing is deeply emphasized. So you definitely want to go to a place where there is a sacred environment for your soul to feel comforted, and your mind can come to a rest that is so exquisite, so beautiful that you have no desire for anything other than just to be in that moment. Scorpio is so profound, and Mercury usually is thought of as the communication messenger planet, but Mercury is also about stilling the mind, and in Scorpio, that stillness can be felt to the core of your soul. So I definitely would love for you to take this time during the retrograde especially, but also before and after while Mercury is in Scorpio, to reflect in a sacred space and be present in a way that you've not felt before. Be so delighted by your life and by the potentials. This is a deeply spiritual moment. So for you to take this time and create a spiritual sanctuary feeling for most of the month of November is going to really hold the space for you next year. The spirituality that is awakened within you for this particular retrograde is very profound. And remember that Jupiter is still in its own sign of Sagittarius until early December. And this is a wonderful moment because Jupiter makes wonderful aspects to other planets as it finishes up its journey through its own sign, which won't happen again until 11 years from now. So we are in a very powerful, positive, wonderful place right now. Everything's coming together internally and externally in a way that will prepare you for that huge event in Capricorn that's coming up. You will be poised, you will be ready, you'll be excited because you just feel good. You feel so happy and grateful about where you are. You feel excited about your potential future outcomes because you are invested in them emotionally. Mercury in Scorpio is truly about that emotional investment. So this is a fantastic time for you to just be in a place of tremendous authority, spiritual authority, and also to know your code, to know who you are at soul level, and that's revealed in your star code. So just go to starcodeclass.com, discover who you are, discover who the people in your life are at soul level, help yourself to that wisdom, that connection, that beautiful synchronicity, because you have explored the truth in a very deeply spiritual way. So you can do that at starcodeclass.com. And of course, you can do that for the whole Mercury retrograde as we all move through this wonderful period of self-discovery, of awakening, of truth, of profound understanding, and rediscovering the joy of being alive at this time on Earth. Have a beautiful Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, and I will see you in next week's Star Code.
Hey guys, it's Siobhan with To Kitty and Beyond. I just wanted to jump on here with a quick energy update. As of last night, which was October 27th, we had that new moon that I was talking about in yesterday's video. And then over the course of the evening, I was feeling these energy spikes start to happen. So whenever these happen for myself subjectively, what I experience is almost like my skin starts to crawl. I'll get tingling on the top of my head. It almost feels like things are touching me, and this is when the energy is really moving around and when this energy is coming into the body, because it's kind of it's like electricity. Well, it is electricity. So we are being stimulated, or I was being stimulated at that point and feeling kind of itchy and a little bit uncomfortable, and I start to get a little bit agitated because it's not necessarily a comfortable feeling having this kind of stimulation. So I jumped on. First thing I saw this morning was people talking about the Schumann resonance chart. So if I can, I'll insert a picture here. Otherwise, I'll leave the link to the site in the description box below. But yeah, there's just like spike after spike after spike, and really, really big ones too. So the overall resonance got up to 60 hertz, which is really high considering we usually have a base of 7.8. It's been a lot higher than that lately, just on average, usually around like 10, 11, or 12, but 60 is fairly significant, and the fact that it's peaked several times from 40 to 60 over the past 24 hours is worth noting, and it's worth reporting on. So normally I don't do like the daily updates anymore because everything kind of stays the same, so I don't want to feel like my updates are redundant and that they're really not helping anybody. They're just saying the same thing over and over again. But this is pretty significant. I've been feeling this for a while, especially going into Scorpio season. I've been having a lot of really intense dreams and stuff coming up to be dealt with, like triggers, emotional things that have been sort of lying dormant or being suppressed under the surface. So these things are coming up to be felt either through the subconscious mind or through the conscious mind through relationships with others and interactions. So stuff to look at over the next week or so is going to be integration of whatever's being brought up to be looked at. We are being put through a little bit of an uncomfortable phase right now, physically and emotionally, as we get really highly stimulated like this. It kind of shakes everything up, and it can feel a little bit uncomfortable. I don't want to say disturbing because it's not that bad, but definitely uncomfortable, being put out of our comfort zone, to say the least. And but overall, the energy has gone down a little bit since last night. This morning, I'm not feeling as agitated as I was last night. Although I do tend to notice that when these energy spikes happen, I feel them mostly at night. So I have a theory around this that's basically that whenever there's an energy spike or there's solar wind or there's something going on in the geomagnetic field, it really settles down to the surface of the earth at night, which is when we are more likely to feel it more strongly and therefore take note of it. Because we're constantly surrounded by energy, we're constantly feeling these shifts and these waves and stimulation of all kinds, but a lot of the time, especially throughout the course of our day, we're either distracted or it's far enough away from us that it doesn't become tangible at that point until later in the day. So that's my theory, my own subjective experience when I experience these waves, and they tend to peak at nighttime, usually from around 9 p.m. to 2 in the morning. And I'm usually asleep after that, but I have been woken up before in the past with particularly intense energy waves or fluctuations in the Schumann resonance at around 3 or 4 in the morning, which does tend to be a highly spiritual time of day, if you want to put it like that. It's also when the pineal gland in the brain is most active, releasing dimethyltryptamine, which is the spirit molecule. So this is where it's activating our third eye, and normally this is during dream state. But if you do choose to wake up between 3, 4, or 5 in the morning, then it's a particularly good time to meditate or to listen to any guidance or feel into your body as to what's going on energetically. So always good to keep in mind. So that'll be it for today. Just wanted to share that quick energy update. If you guys are feeling anything, of course, we've got several thousand kinds of ascension symptoms, so I'm not going to go into all of them. You guys probably know what they are right now, and everybody's different, so there's always different kinds of ascension symptoms. So if you guys want to share any of the symptoms that you're having from energy fluctuations in the comments below, that way it kind of helps us to get an inventory of what's going on for everybody, as well as validating everybody else's experience, because chances are good that if you're feeling it or you're experiencing it, somebody else is as well. So let's start an open conversation about ascension symptoms, and let's just continue to ride these waves. Thanks for listening, guys. If you would like to book a personal reading with me, I do tarot and oracle readings, email, as well as video recorded and live Skype readings. And I also do holographic Usui Reiki sessions, which is energy healing if you're looking for anything to help clear out blockages and reintegrate parts of your soul so that you can live your divine life. All right, guys, thank you so much. I love you. All of the information for services and offerings are in the description box below, which does tend to... Hey guys, it's Siobhan with Kitty and Beyond. Just back again with another quick energy update. As of yesterday, I was reporting that the Schumann resonance had been spiking consecutively, and today we're actually going into the 3rd day in a row that the Schumann resonance has continued to peak in this fashion. So on Disclosure News IT, I'm going to read you guys some of what they've reported in the last 24 hours and subsequently before that as well. So we entered today the 3rd consecutive day of strong activity after a few hours of pause at the local time midnight passage from 22 UTC. A new powerful movement began with amplitude variations that reached 40 at first to arrive with a gradual increase to power 87. So 87 hertz frequency is extremely high. I know that in the past it has gotten higher than that, but I don't remember seeing, at least in the past year, it get this high, this consecutively with this many peaks in this short period of time. So today, up to now, it's almost been a total whiteout for several hours. So this is consecutive peaks, and we can see that on the chart with all of these different white sections. This is, you know, considering the level of calm that we've had for the past, I would say about a month or so, it's been fairly calm. There's been not much to report, some small peaks, but this is really significant. So considering the beginning of this powerful movement indicated on the graph on October 27th at 5 a.m., the almost continuous period of activity continued for about 65 hours. So this is something that I've not seen before, and this is pretty intense. So like I was saying yesterday, there's lots of ascension symptoms that come with this. And so the day before, around the first day that this started to happen, I was experiencing that itchiness, agitation, skin crawling. I can feel the energy moving around, that kind of thing. Today, I'm experiencing headaches in my in my temples, basically. It's like a side of my head headache. And also just feeling a little bit lifted up out of the body almost. So I would advise everyone to meditate and eat and drink intuitively what you feel like your body needs at this time. Some people need to calorie load or carb load, and some people need to reduce their diet and maybe just have like a juice cleanse or liquids, or very light, healthy, raw foods, fruits and veggies. Really depends on what your body needs. It's going to be different for everybody, so just listen to what your physical needs are as well as your emotional and mental needs, because again, everybody reacts differently to this level of stimulation. This is electricity. It's electromagnetic stimulation. So we're feeling this at many different levels. And some people can feel really, really high from this, and some people can feel like they're getting the crap kicked out of them. So it really just depends, and it doesn't indicate that you're any less or any more, depending on how your body, mind, and soul integrate this kind of energy. It just is what it is. So definitely don't judge yourself or other people for their symptoms. That's something I want to mention. But on top of that, like I was saying in the last video, we were sharing some of the symptoms that we're having, and there are similarities between them all. So lots of people are experiencing similar things, and as of right now, it's really just about listening to your body. Intuitive self-care. I cannot stress that enough, because this is quite a level of intensity that we've not necessarily seen before. And it's interesting because I was checking out spaceweather.com, and usually when we have this level of Schumann spikes and frequency upkicks, we can see where it's coming from with solar storms, but they aren't reporting much at this time. They said that there's a faint, slow-moving CME that left the sun on October 26th, which might hit Earth's magnetic field on the 29th or 30th, so that is around today. But they said it's fairly weak, and the only other thing that happened before this was a hole that opened up on the sun. It's actually been there for a while, but it rotates, right, the sun? Or rather, we rotate around the sun, depending on how you want to look at it. And this hole was facing the Earth a few days ago, so it takes a couple of days for that energy that's spewed out from the sun to reach Earth, which could very well be what's happening right now, but they weren't predicting that to arrive until the 30th or 31st. So this is a little bit early, considering that the last 3 days have been steady peaks. So there's something going on, and it's very much going on at a geomagnetic electrical level. So it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on the Schumann resonance to see what it does for the next 24 hours and going forward, as well as spaceweather.com to see if they change, because sometimes they do change their predictions or the intensity of their predictions. So we'll keep an eye on that. I'll leave the links to the two sites that I'm looking at in the description box below my video. And if you guys would like to book a reading or a personal Reiki healing session with me to help deal with some of these energies or to help get guidance on what it is bringing up within you, because a lot of times this level of stimulation, it shakes things to the surface to be dealt with. And that can be immediate, or that can be built up for a while and now just sort of come to a head. So please reach out if you're needing any assistance or service of any kind. I would love to help you as best as I can with the skills and the tools that I have. And all of the information for that will be in the description box below my video as well. So just hit the show more button and you will see a drop down list of all my services, offerings, pricing, etc. So thanks for listening, guys. I love you, and we will see you next time. Bye.